Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture. As always, I am your host, Andrew Davis. And before I introduce my guest, I want to announce two things. The first is that my comic book class is slightly delayed, but will be coming out towards the end of October. So be on the lookout for that. If you want to learn how to invest in comic books and make a lot of money doing it, I can't promise you how much money you'll make, but I can promise you will be educated in that sector. And the second thing that I want to remind everybody of is that you need to support and financially support people who do cool projects, whether it is this show, my guest's comic, or even corporate media. If you like She-Hulk, you should be supporting Disney. If you don't like She-Hulk and you like something else, you should absolutely be supporting that, and you should be putting your money where your mouth is. Because without money, this stuff doesn't get made. So keep that in mind. And enough of the PSAs. As I have with me, Laurie. And
Calcaterra.
I'm going to get the name wrong.
Okay.
I'm going to get the name wrong. I know I'm going to get the name wrong.
Give it a try.
I'm not going to try.
No? Calcaterra.
Calcaterra. Yeah, there you go. So
it's just long. Calcaterra. You could say it like you're Italian with your hands like Calcaterra, and that's okay too. I just don't. But Calcaterra, yeah.
Yeah, so welcome back to the show. I know I'm going to get your name wrong. So I just
call me Laurie.
I'm going to take the L. I'll take the L. But welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's been a little while since we had a one-on-one conversation. I know I've had some comic talks with you and Chris, which is always fun. We have a good time. But yeah, I'm back. I'm in another Kickstarter. We're releasing issue number 2 very soon. So we're out there raising money, and we're doing lots of cool stuff too. So it's fun to come back and talk about it,
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff going on, and you're busy, and a lot of stuff's going on with you. So you currently have Path of the Pale Rider issue 2 being funded on Kickstarter, and a lot's going on in it. I think we're really now, issue 1 sort of introduced us to a bunch of characters, and issue 2 opened up the world. But before we get into all of it, what is the basic premise of Path of the Pale Rider for those who have no idea and are hearing about this for the very first time?
All right, so Path of the Pale Rider is a Western apocalypse. So we're actually in the future where the death process has been broken. And what I mean by that is your body can die, but your soul or your energy or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't leave your body when that happens. So you're still stuck in there as your body decays. So you're not a brain craving, mindless zombie that wants to eat people. You're just you. But as your brain starts to decay, you go a little crazy, and then eventually you go very crazy. So you can get like forgetful, you can get violent, you could get detached, you could, what we would go through if we were experiencing like dementia or something terrible like MS, or you know what I mean, where your body is breaking down, but you're still in it. Okay. So that's the premise of this world, and death is broken for everything. So people, animals, insects, nothing gets to leave. We're all stuck here together. And it's like you have overpopulation, you have famine, riots, government breakdown. It's just, there's like 3,000,001 conspiracy theories that are built into this world because nobody knows what happened. So where we kind of start the story, we're 10 years into that apocalypse, and things have devolved back to the Wild West. So we follow this cowboy, Jude St. Clair, in this wasteland where he is still looking for the answer. He's still trying to figure out, why do the dead no longer die? So it's a
and let's get into that a little bit, because obviously he's looking for the answer.
Mm-hmm.
He is sort of, I guess, a rugged man, and he's been doing this for a little while. He's not new to the Wild West, and he obviously has either a calling to it, or he has something to do with why this has happened, or he knows something and he's sort of dealing with things, and he kind of gets himself into some trouble. And it's also very interesting to see what he's doing, because he's very much careful, and he's also looking for items, and he's a little bit of a scavenger, because producing things and finding things aren't exactly the easiest thing. So what was this like, really creating him and building out his character? Because we sort of see who he is, we see what's valuable to him, but we also see that he sometimes, sort of shoots first and asks questions.
Yes, very much so. So that's basically what issue number 1 is Jude making all these decisions in the wild. So he's presented with all these different situations between, like a pack of wolves in the middle of the night, or coming across a farm with a woman and her child, and how he interacts with them. And it's like not sleeping for a night and then going up this cliffside road, finding this glass. Yes, being a scavenger. He also is like nostalgic, you know what I mean? Because he was around prior to the apocalypse starting. So he kind of craves that previous life that's gone. So he lives on his horse. He will find things and take it with him just because it's like he needs that piece of what things used to be. And that's kind of his goal, is to figure out the why so he could put things back to the way they were if he can. Um, but yeah, like you said, he kind of shoots first and asks questions later. He gets himself into trouble. He's a human. He was sleep deprived and makes dumb choices and then realizes that he's dumb. Like, I shouldn't have done that. That was dangerous. Stuff like that. And then, ultimately ends up on this cliffside road, and his decision to pick up that glass, his horse trips, it comes out of the saddlebag and shatters. And then this undead bear, Big James, is now awake, and he has to deal with the consequences of his actions. So it's like, in this world, it's so dangerous. Any little decision that you make could have such dire consequences.
Yeah, and let's even talk a little bit about issue one before we get into issue two, because I
Yeah.
feel like issue one, we're really setting up what the world looks like. We're
Yes.
really setting up also the dangers of the world. We're also setting up who Jude is. We're also setting up, his decision making, but also his instinct. Because that's the other
Yes.
thing where, I don't mean to be mean to your character, but as I stated, he's somewhat dumb. He somewhat lacks wisdom, I feel, but he also has an ability to react and sort of survive. And it's a weird combination for a character, because it's kind of like somebody can do something on autopilot just based on muscle memory, I feel, and get
So,
themselves out of trouble, but they also made a really dumb decision
right.
at the
Yeah.
time.
Like,
Like, I don't
I
know how to
think,
describe that. It's a weird combination, right?
yeah, it is a weird combination, but it's just very human. You know what I mean? Where it's like, he's not a superhero, he's not a smooth operator. He's just a normal guy, and he messes up. You know what I mean? But yeah, he like, in the very first couple pages, he's riding his horse through ruins, and he can kind of like, he has like that tingly sense, like there's something out there. And you get this moment where something like runs through their space. So like, if this is the camera and that's Jude, it runs in between and you don't know what it is. So he pulls his gun and it points it, and it's a kid. You know what I mean? So he's putting his gun in this kid's face. Thank God he didn't pull the trigger, but that's also kind of Jude as well. You know what I mean? Like, he asks him a question. Basically, he tells him to turn on his disc, which will amplify his heartbeat, so he knows if the kid is alive or undead. So then once he knows what he's dealing with, then it's okay. I put my gun away. You know what I mean? So he's been around. He's still going to protect himself in a situation, no matter who's in front of him, until he absolutely knows, all the answers, or can at least assess the situation. But yeah, we'll still do dumb stuff like go pull a glass out of a zombie hand and then dive to go get it. I attribute that to no sleep.
Because it's interesting, because I think that it really sets the stage in a lot of ways. It also sort of sets who he is and where we're going with this, and the fact that Jude isn't dumb, and it's not that I don't know what his education is, but he clearly has an education of hard knocks, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
He has a Wild West education because he's been
Right.
around for a while. But also it's that idea of judgment, is in there, but it sets up who this character is, and even what the dangers of this world face. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's issue one in a
Yep.
lot of ways. And we get some action, and obviously we're dealing with an undead bear and some other stuff that happens. And we see the fact that it's not just humanity; it's
Mhm.
everything in the world is
Yes.
broken. Obviously, I don't know if we're going to get to sea life in this entire series at one point,
They're in
but
the West, so probably not. They're not really by the ocean, but yes,
you,
it is.
you get where I'm
Most
going
are
with
the
it.
same.
But one of the things is that this sort of sets the stage, I feel like, for issue two. And a lot more is going on in issue two, where we're now starting to see what the politics looks like. And we're
Yes.
starting to see sort of things going on, and how he kind of walks into a bar. And I don't think we really get a sense of currency per se, but it's crystal clear that some people are living for the moment and others are living in other ways, and that towns are operating a certain way. And so, what was this like really setting this up? Because when he walks in, we get a sense of a lot of politics and a lot of functionality and stuff like that. And we're really now starting to see how humanity is dealing with this, because in the first issue, we don't see that.
Correct. You are absolutely 100% correct. He's going into this town named Santa Claus, which I think is hilarious. I poke fun at it with one of our variant covers where it's like he's heading into Santa Claus. You see a Christmas tree covered in zombie parts, and it says "Welcome to Santa Claus," but it's like the most unwelcoming image you could possibly think of. But that's kind of Santa Claus in a nutshell. They don't like strangers. People don't go there because Big James is on the road, so they don't get people coming their way. And the first thing that they say when Jude walks in the door is, "Heads up, you got a stranger." You know what I mean? So they're already like hypersensitive to him being there. And then, of course, Jude's like, "I'm looking for someone who's super important. He has all this information I need. Do you know this guy named Dwayne Fink?" And the bartender's like, "Yeah, he's right there." And he turns around. And then, of course, Dwayne is this drunk that's like the village idiot, spouting out nonsense about the golden man who snared death. And it's like, I like to throw in all these different, I don't know, urban legends. So like they're asking him about the Fountain of Youth, and like you'll hear like El Dorado. They'll talk about all these different things because nobody really has any idea what happened or what's going on, right? Because it's all word of mouth at this point. So Dwayne is like, they're goading him on, they're giving him drinks so he acts more crazy, and they laugh at him. He's their entertainment, you know? And Dwayne gets upset and he climbs on top of the table and he's spilling his beer on people as he's like shouting out about how the man of gold knows what happened to death and he fills the world with undead, and while he sits in his castle and feasts and blah blah blah, and we're being judged, and it's just crazy talk, right? And then falls off the table because he's drunk. So then the
Yeah.
bartender's like, "Are you sure this is the guy you're looking for?" And Jude is just like, "Yep, that's the guy," like.
Well, let's talk about that, because obviously this is the first time that we get Jude looking for a particular person.
Right. Well, he was looking
Obviously,
for him in issue 1. He talked about it with, they know that like, he stopped at that farm with the lady and her little girl. And that's where it came out, where he was like, "I'm looking for someone." He's like, "I'm looking for Santa Claus." And she's like, "Aren't you too old for that?" And he was like, Not Santa Claus the legend. I'm looking for the town." And she was like, "Well, I don't know. All the names are gone." And he's like, "Well, and she's like, "There's a town up the road, but I don't know what it's called or who's there." You know what I mean? He's like, "Well, I'm looking for a guy named Dwayne Fink." And she's like, "I don't know." So that's what kind of lets us
yeah.
know who he's looking for or what he's looking for.
But this is really the first time that we get that Jude is looking for somebody, and that
Yes,
was Dwayne. And obviously, there's a reason why. There's history between Jude and Dwayne.
maybe
Well, I'm presuming that there is, and there's something
something
that is
happened.
known
Right,
by Dwayne that is relevant to Jude. And
right.
it's the idea that we don't know exactly what that is at the moment on what has been seen of this issue. I don't know if it's revealed in the issue, but clearly Dwayne knows something
He knows
that Jude
something, but
wants.
is he
And
crazy?
and then that's where it gets really interesting, is that how is Dwayne in this town? Dwayne seems to be a local in this town,
Yep.
or accepted in this town, and that's what's really fascinating. And then it gets more interesting because what Dwayne is shouting is the idea that, he's talking about death, and this idea that, the god of death, and the man of gold and all that stuff in there. And well, you're in the West, and this has been reverted back to the West in a lot of ways, and it raises a lot of questions of, is this really a bad thing, what has happened, I feel.
I don't know. What do you think, Andrew? You're onto something here. I like it. Keep going.
And so, because it really, I feel, provides a counterpoint to what Jude is trying to solve. And while Dwayne is in a drunken state, and this is how I read it, is that, and this is, or it could just be that Dwayne is drunk and is just being goaded on, and this could all be just a red herring. But it's the idea that it does provide a very interesting counterpoint. And so, what is this like to throw that in there? Because now there's a lot more questions, I feel, on this preview, and
Mhm.
it raises questions, and it also, I guess, suspends belief because we have somebody who looks like a drunken idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're not a drunken
Maybe
idiot.
you're not.
I think of Haymitch from the Hunger Games. Haymitch
Yes.
was drinking a lot. There was a reason why Haymitch was drinking a lot. And so what is this like to really throw that character in there? Because I think Dwayne is a fascinating character at the
Dwayne is
moment.
one of my favorite characters to write by far. He gets into a lot of trouble. I feel like Dwayne just kind of like walks around the wasteland with no idea how to survive, but just randomly survives. He's just one of those. You know what I mean? It's like he misses every mine buried in the ground. He misses all the cliffs. It's like things fall from the sky and they just barely miss him. He's like
So he's
one of those
Mr. Bean.
cartoons. You know what I mean?
Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean,
Yes.
right?
He's Mr. Bean or like Mr. Magoo, where he's blind to everything and he just kind of walks around and things miss him. That's Dwayne. But he knows something. And I don't name people arbitrarily, right? So what is a fink? A
Fair
fink is
enough.
someone who tells on somebody else they're a rat. And usually this happens in jail. Where did Dwayne end up? In the drunk tank. So he's in jail.
True. True.
So
See,
you
again,
just have to
again,
read it.
I
You have
don't
to read and see
know.
what happens. Jude
I
is
don't
going to
know.
do something. Jude's going to do something.
Yeah, and this is where this gets interesting too, because obviously we're in a lawless society. So your book sets up a very interesting thing, very similar to The Walking Dead in a lot of ways, where there is
Kind
no
of.
government anymore.
Right.
And
There's no government. There's a sheriff there.
but we look at this though is that I don't know what the jurisdiction of the sheriff is. I don't know how much power the sheriff has technically. I also don't know how much anarchy has ensued in this town before, how much anarchy can ensue, how many people like the sheriff, and also is really the sheriff going to want to engage in quote unquote justice if something is to go wrong, because there might be bigger problems elsewhere.
What is justice to these people in this apocalypse? That's the question.
It could be
How
getting later as we know.
far? What is Jude going to, you know what I mean? Because Jude has been known to make bad decisions, right? So what does he think is necessary in order to talk to Dwayne? And is he going to put his life at risk? Because justice in different places could mean putting you in jail. It could also mean hanging you off the front gates and putting you with the other zombies that are at the front. You know what I mean? As he walks into town, he's passing bodies. And it's just like another Tuesday to them. They use one to point which way to the saloon because they think it's funny. You know what I mean? That's how this place is. So it's more dangerous than you think. In fact, this is one of the things I wanted to talk about. Our cover shows Jude, like Marco's cover, the A cover, right? It shows Jude stomping on a dude, the hard path that he has taken sometimes over people to accomplish his goals. And in the background, you got Big James and a dude that's kind of like spliced into the picture of Big James. That character is in that 4 pages. That's Jimmy. Now, again, I don't name people arbitrarily. James, Big James, and Jimmy have the same name, people. So if Big James is a threat, we're going to see how much of a threat Jimmy is.
No, because it's interesting because obviously, I mean, you're going into an area where now what happens, and then we go into the idea that what's the real threat? What's the real anarchy? Is it the people? Is it the undead? Is it the deterioration? Is it
Right.
the fact that anybody can deteriorate at any given point
Right.
because there is no death, or is it something else? Or, you know, and you get into a whole bunch of stuff, and that raises questions about Dwayne too, is that he is looking like he's drunk, but is he really drunk? Or is something else going on? Or is it both things? Because what he's spouting into now, you got real questions on what that information is, what's going
Right.
on, and also what is this town hiding? Because there's something else that could be in play too that
This
could
is
create a
true.
bigger issue as well. And so obviously this is where we're going with this, and this is why this
Right.
is interesting at this point, is that there's a lot of, I guess, avenues And
Yeah.
not every avenue has to be explored. I mean, certain things where it could just go into this issue where Jude makes a decision and that leads to something else, and there you go. And you don't really find out much about the town beyond this, beyond the fact that maybe
Mm.
they're going after Jude because Jude did something stupid. And they go
Which
after
is
their
what Jude
word.
does. So, I mean, you're gonna see quite a bit of Santa Claus. Um, it's not a nice place. Like I was mentioning, Jimmy and Big James have the same name for a reason, just to kind of illustrate that no matter where Jude goes, that danger is always present in the wild and with people. It doesn't matter. So you get to see kind of like how they interact together, like what Jude's gonna do, and then the repercussions of that. And then hopefully, he'll get to talk to Dwayne, and you'll get some questions answered. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And let's even back out of this story a little bit because I don't want to ruin too much of it. And obviously, I think that
No,
certain
that's as far
things,
as I'm going. No more no more spoilers.
I think obviously what I was saying is some things are going to be revealed, some things are going to be hidden. Obviously, there's some other stuff going on too. Who knows? There's a bunch of stuff going on. There's a lot of gears churning, for lack of a better word
Mhm.
here. Um, but what is this like to really start setting that up and start setting up foreshadowing? Because this is something that I think some stories get, some stories don't. I also think that when you're building out a world, it can get tricky. I mean, I'm a big manga reader, and One Piece is a really good example of this where One Piece has thrown a bunch of stuff in there that is somewhat irrelevant in a lot of ways now as
Mhm.
we're heading into the final arc of One Piece, which is going to take about 10 years.
Oh, jeez.
But but I mean, it's going to take like 15 on the anime.
Wow.
It's probably going to take about 10 on the manga side minimum. And the guy produces like 40 chapters a year, which is a lot. I mean,
Wow.
if you're producing 18 pages per chapter and 40 chapters, that's a lot of
That's
content.
great, though.
Um,
That's amazing.
I mean, they produce like 45 episodes a year with One Piece. In the anime
Wow.
world, that's amazing too.
Yeah.
Basically every 12 weeks they produce 12 episodes. They take a week off and then they produce another 12. Um,
That's
it,
insane.
you have real money following this show and it's making bank. It's crazy. Drawing 18 pages a week is crazy.
Yes. That
But
is
anyway,
nuts.
one of the things is that there's certain things in One Piece that they put in there that really have no effect. And so, what is that like for you trying to figure that out and putting stuff in there and making sure that it's relevant in issue 8? Because that I think that's the trick when you're doing a long series. I think
Yeah.
that is tricky
I think
because things change.
well, I think the key is that I've already written the first arc. It's complete. I've done all 13 issues of that first arc. So I was able to write it all, and then when I got to the end, go back and reread and like tweak and like, okay, this is where I'm going, add more foreshadowing back into it, being able to really give you a good experience. So what you're seeing in issue number 2 is all relevant information. It's not there as fluff. I don't have any fluff issues. Everything is pertinent to what happens in story development. So the things that I'm
Because
going to give you are
yeah, because what's going on and what happens in comics is that obviously somebody gets an issue, gets funded on Kickstarter, and then they
mhm.
get a second issue and a third issue, and then all of a sudden what starts happening is that now you sort of get ahead, and maybe you've written out issue 6, but you realize that oh snap, this character is loved by my fans, and it's not an issue of
I'll still
killing
kill
them.
him.
It's not an issue of killing them anymore. It's an issue of okay, if I know that this character is loved by their fans and they have an okay death, I need to pump up their death, or I need to lower their death, or I need to give it a more satisfying death, if that makes sense. Because all of a sudden, if you wrote it and it was half-assed death, that a character gets killed, all of a sudden that can create bigger problems later on in your book because
I
it could
see what you're
violate
saying,
trust.
but I don't write half-assed deaths.
No, no, no,
If
no,
you
no,
know
but
my book. I
no,
was
no,
like,
but you get where I'm going with this, and also,
I do. Like when people start being invested in the story, they maybe want a little more from that character or like you said, go back and tweak something. And we can do that, minor tweaks as we go. I always like look at the script as a whole and compare it to what we did with issue number 1, because like Marco is the artist, I am the letterer. And so since I wrote the script came first. He creates the art, and sometimes like if I don't have enough space in the panels, I change dialogue, or he gives me something that's really good that I didn't think of art-wise, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm changing this." You know what I mean? So we have to reevaluate every issue as they come out,
Yeah.
but it's not usually major things that he's changing, and all my deaths are pretty significant, all of them, because they're really I like grizzly deaths. So they're all big and over the top. So when you get used to a character and we kill them, trust me, they're gonna get their dues.
Because you mentioned something very interesting. Because comics is a very collaborative process.
Yeah,
Unlike writing a novel is easy,
right.
technically. I mean, obviously, creation is not
Well, I
easy.
mean, you get your
It
editor.
took
Your editor's
it took
gonna.
God 7 days to create everything. Um,
That's different. It's God.
see, if it was easy, it would have taken him a day. But anyhow, I mean, he even needed 5 extra days. So I mean,
Right.
I'm just saying there. Um, I think I can get away with that. I don't think that that's an offensive Christian joke. I have
I
plenty
don't
of
think
those up
so.
my sleeve. I think if you're Christian, you would find that joke to be funny.
I thought it was
He
funny.
left Sundays off because he knew football was coming down the line. Um, anyhow, I don't think that's an offensive joke either. There's plenty of offensive jokes I have. I'm not saying any of them tonight. If you find that joke about Sundays being off, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You really need to get thicker skin. It's nothing personal against anybody else, but if I lose a subscriber because of that, I'm okay. Um,
Oh no, stay, stay. It's a fun time here. We have
I'll
a
watch
good
Monday Night
time.
Football instead. You see what happens. See what happens, everybody. But anyhow, um, comics is very much a creative process and a collaborative process. At that, unlike a novel, it's for a novel you need a computer and basically word
Right,
processing.
right,
In comics, somebody writes the script, and then you have an artist, and they have to take what you put in words into pictures,
right.
and things change. And so, what is that like? Even though you have 13 issues written out for this first arc, what is that like? Because as you were saying, your artist Marco got you a page, and you're like, did not expect the bear to look this way. Did not
No.
expect it to look that way. Did I sort of expected it to be not? I don't want to say nicer, but I expected it to be, I guess, more grimish is a good word to use, or I
um,
expect it to be more monster-esque.
we spend a lot of time in pre-planning.
You get my
Um,
point, right?
what's that?
You get the point I'm making.
Yes, where it's like you get a page and you're like, we must have misunderstood something somewhere. I haven't had that with Marco. I have had that with other artists where I'm like, we're discussing something and I'm like, okay, we can remove this arm and blah, blah, blah. And then like the page come back and I'm like, that's not even what I said. You know what I mean? But that's completely different than what Marco and I do. So Marco and I usually sit down, we read the script together. Um, I give him all kind of the important notes of what has to be seen, and then I let him create. For the most part, like he will do character sketches for everybody that's important. So like Jude and Dwayne and BJ. I'll okay all of those before they go into the comic since they're such pivotal characters. Some of the side characters, I don't really care what they look like, you know? So Marco has fun with those. But I really like when Marco's like, hey, you describe Santa Claus as this, but I'm going to add a bunch more zombies because in your world, it seems like it's just another Tuesday and everybody's used to it. And I was like, you're absolutely right. So he'll add that stuff in and make it better. So where him and I are at is a good place. Like he can see in my head, like I'll give him the character bio for like Dwayne, which has all of his backstory, his appearance, his height, his weight, his belief system. Does he have any scars? What size are his feet? Who cares? You know what I mean? But he gets all that information and he can kind of envision this character and he just enriches the story. So where we like I said, where we kind of veer from the script is like this is such a really good panel of like Dwayne falling off the table. I had him talking, but I don't have room for him talking with this big dramatic scene. So I need to condense what he's saying and some of this other stuff to get the point across. You know what I mean? So that's where like the dialogue might be adjusted based off of the images that I get. But 9 times out of 10, Marco hits the nail on the head where he's just like, this is what we need to see. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. You know, every now and again, I'm like, hey, you need to put his shoulder pad on the other shoulder. And he's like, whoops, you know what I mean? Stuff like that happens. But
Yeah, because one of the things that happens is that obviously, if you're writing a comic and then you get an artist, they then have their interpretation, or they have their own idea of it. And well, if I write,
yeah.
it's a shady town at night at 4 in the morning, well, that could go 15 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that my artist did a bad job; it's that my artist might make it darker. He might make it lighter. There might be a purple mist cloud in there. I don't
Right.
know what my
Right.
artist is going to do. And so it's very tricky. And I think that's something that people in comics and then people who read comics might not fully understand, is that, an artist has a lot of interpretation and there's a lot of different methodologies on how things do. I know writers who give every little detail. They say, look, I want it to be dark and purple. And
Right.
I want it to be, looking like, New York City at 4 in the morning, with blues and purples in the sky. And or some people say, hey, look, do your thing. So I think it's very, very interesting in that regard. But I don't want to push too hard into this, because obviously I do want to talk about what you do with your Kickstarter, 'cause I think it's interesting
Yeah.
where, and I want to talk about more inside baseball stuff, because obviously your book's hard to talk about, because if we start talking about it, we're going to ruin stuff.
We don't want to ruin stuff, but I mean, like, we can talk about like broad concepts and like how do people survive in this world. Um,
It's a little bit tricky with your book, and I'll be very honest, because again, once you read it and you start seeing it, and I feel like I could say in issue one, there's a undead bear that's trying to kill Jude. I don't think that's a spoiler. Issue one's been out for a while,
right.
and if I ruined issue one for you, I'm sorry, everybody.
I mean, I
Um,
gave that away in the 8-page Kickstarter preview that there is a bear. We haven't said what happens with that bear, so you're fine. You haven't spoiled anything.
you got an undead bear in the middle of the Wild West. What the hell do you think is going to happen? It's
Bad.
because
It's a
you
bad
like
day.
some tea. I ate Goldilocks last week. I mean, they just started talking. It'd be really funny. I mean, there's your variant cover right there.
Uh.
Goldilocks and the Undead Bear playing. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I think you should book that. Um, hey, maybe I should buy an exclusive variant and put that on it.
There
I'll
you
get it
go.
done by Paul Green of all people. That would be funny. That would be funny. I digress though, but I do want to talk about inside baseball, because one of the things about Kickstarter, and I'm curious, is that Kickstarter to me is not a comic shop,
It's
and,
not.
and I think that some people use Kickstarter as a shop, an online shop. Some people use it almost like a comic shop. Some people use it as a pre-order form. But I
Mm.
think that there is a big debate going on right now. I feel, where I think some people also view it as an experience,
Mhm.
and it's not an equity experience where I don't own any equity, but it is an experience. So what is that like for you? Because you have some experience stuff going on with your Kickstarter, and I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
like to
complicated.
make what's that?
I think it's very complicated where Kickstarter is going and how it
Yeah.
functions and what works and what doesn't.
Well, I don't have it as like a shop. Like we are doing like pre-orders obviously, but we also do have an experience that goes along with the comic. So right from the beginning, I had this idea that the world is so big in Path of the Pale Rider that you can't shove all that into one story. Jude has a path. Like I said, we have an ending. So he's marching his way through the story to get to that ending. He's not going to be able to show you all the crazy stuff that goes on in this story. And I'm not about to like break, the perspective. It's his story. So what I did was I made other ways for the fans to experience the things that you're not going to see in the comic, right? So with every comic, we release a short film. So with issue 1, we did a commercial for the undead retirement community. So it's like a legit commercial when it starts. You're like, what am I watching? What is this? Um, and it's very serene and like someone running their fingers through the grass and a giant pool and look at this community, it's beautiful, you know, don't you want to live here? And then it's like static, and all of a sudden you're into this riot. So we show you kind of like the white picket fence and what the world wants you to think it is, and then what the world really is with the violence and the riots and the things on fire. So it's a good
Let's
juxtaposition.
even talk about that, because this is one of the things that I think is interesting, right? And look, there are plenty of people who run it pre-order, or I have half the book done and then this is the money for printing and the other half done.
Yeah.
And they're running it like a pre-order, or I can't do this without back or support. But there's also plenty of people, and maybe not plenty, but there's people who say, look, the book's done and I paid for everything, and now this is just a straight up pre-order for you to get it before it goes into distribution with a publisher somewhere, which is also fine. There's nothing wrong with that either. But then there's this whole concept and this whole idea of saying, okay, cool, let's participate in other ways, because, you know, it's an experience, and I think people want an experience. I mean, look at the What's Not app. I think What's Not app is not an investor app. It's not a place to get good deals on cards or comics or anything else you want. It's an area where you can interact with like-minded fans and the people who are buying and selling, and have a conversation and watch and buy stuff from, and get your collectibles, and you're probably paying a little bit of a premium, to be very honest. But again, it's that social experience. And so this commercial, I feel, that you did in the short film, and then I know there's another one for the second issue. I don't know if it came out before or it's coming out after, or
I have it here if you want to show it. It's a conspiracy theories.
I mean, we could play it. I mean, there's nothing in there that's going to give me a copy flag, right?
No, it's all my property. I own everything. It's just a bunch of people telling me what they think broke the death process, and it's like it runs like a newsreel. There is some cursing. That's about it.
Oh no, I only care about the YouTube copy strike.
Oh no, that won't happen. This is all 100% original material.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on Channel 13 WDED. I'm Lewis Landon. As you know, we've been following this crisis as it develops. And now we'd like to go live to Ellie Brock on location, talking to you, the viewer, on what you think caused this horrific crisis. Ellie, good evening. And how are you?
Hello, Lewis. How are you? I'm here on location today. We're going to walk the streets and see what people have to say. Hello, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
You got it.
What do you think broke the death process?
The witches.
It's the cats!
You know, if I had to pick one thing, it'd be the aliens.
Aliens?
Yes, aliens.
Where did they come from?
Outer space.
Why do you think the death process is broken?
I can tell you. It's that damn sugar.
That's a good question. And a lot of you are going to say the government. I know, in fact, most of you are going to say the government.
I think it's the government.
No comment.
Do you want to talk about what you think broke the death process? Sir. What? Sir, do you have a second? I'd like to ask you a question.
It has to be Anthony Fauci.
None of this is the reason death was broken.
I honestly think it's vaccines.
What's causing the undead, and what's causing the human form to turn into the undead. And it's not just death. If you think about it, this makes sense.
No comment.
Wait, are you saying we can't die?
I think it's the food that we eat.
It's in our candy.
I'm not answering no questions.
Is it even real? Like, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not.
I bet it's the cats. I know it's the cats.
Everything is genetically processed now.
So GMOs.
Remember the pygmies? I think they're back.
No fucking comment.
It's the nanotech technology.
A pale horse, and he who sat upon it was dead.
Can you elaborate?
Look, man, I don't know. Back off.
Maybe this is all a really big trip.
offending you people. I think you guys are all at fault. The media, the government, Big Pharma. You guys know who did this, and I won't stand for it.
No comment.
It's in our coffee. We can't die?
Well, I mean, your body dies. So where can people go to find this information?
Google.
That's what I think it is.
Like specifically yogurt?
Not the yogurt.
It's in our drinks.
Can you be more specific?
No.
Is there a cure?
I don't think so.
Honestly, I think there's a colony of pygmies, and I think they are out casting voodoo spells.
That blueberries got me real concerned.
It's in the brisket.
Yes.
It's in the barbecue.
In the brisket. Look around you. How many deaths do you hear about?
A lot right now.
So of course it was the witches. They're the smartest people in the world.
Skinny G. He must have given me some bad stuff.
You just said I don't die.
Your body dies, but yeah, you stay in it while you decay.
It's sugar.
Don't believe everything you hear.
It's absolutely organic.
Just the meat,
Barbecue
and the
brisket.
water,
And the water.
and the vegetables.
Test the limits of life.
It's McDonald's. McDonald's broke death. And the reason I say that is if you think about it, their food don't actually burn. Their food was designed to be consumed by the dead. But see, if you take it, then you die. So it's the consumption of eating the food that only is made for that do not die. You get what I'm saying? It's McDonald's. Trust what I'm telling you.
It's just a bad trip.
Crazy, it's crazy stuff.
I'm gonna go rob a bank.
Yeah, bullshit.
Oh my God.
I don't know why the dead don't fucking die. Look at me. Look at me. Put the phone.
And there you have it. We've spent all day asking people what they think. There's some truly wild accusations out there, and let me say, we really have no idea.
Go to commercial. Is she okay? Somebody call 911.
It's McDonald's.
So to even talk about this, because one of the things is, and even going back to what we were talking about, is when people back at Kickstarter, you know, obviously you're looking for something that is beyond, I think, you know, going into your local comic shop and picking up your books on Wednesday or once a month or in your pull list. And they're looking for something where it's an experience or you're part of something,
Yes.
or that you feel like, you know, you're getting something exclusive. And what is this like? Because there are other, I guess, campaigns and projects that do stuff like this, but you also take it to a new level. So what is this like? Because I don't know if it's marketing or experience, or I'm trying to think of, it's almost like LARPing, right?
Almost, yeah.
Where it's the idea that you go and you stay in a campground for like 3 days and you're in your character for 3 days.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this is similar to. Obviously, we're not going to go hit each other with styrofoam swords, unless you want to. I mean, you know, I'm down. I have a pretty good styrofoam sword.
Andrew,
last
you
time I
couldn't take
played
me.
LARPing, it was good. But anyway,
I
as an elf,
I
like
see
level
this as,
7, it
like,
was great.
it's threefold, right? Because one, we're enriching the story, right? So you get to see like what a news report would look like in that world. You're not going to see that in the comic book, you know? Two, I'm giving the chance to the fans to be a part of the world where they can be part of the experience. They get to act goofy. We can be dramatic. We can do riots. We can do stunts. And we put it all together and we make an experience together that they get to participate in. And then, yes, we use that for marketing as well, because we want people to see some of the other things that we do besides the comic book. The comic book is great. It's the meat and the potatoes. It's where Andrew's going to be reading The Death, the Dying, and the Destruction. If If you don't want to sign, or if you don't want to be a part of the short films, you don't have to. If you don't want to be solving the riddles, you don't have to. But I do all these extra things to give people that whole immersive experience.
Yeah. To even talk about that too, because obviously, I mean, we were speaking about Sam Vera before, and what he does in his book is his book's an all age book. So he has a
Mhm.
crossword puzzle, and he has
Mhm.
trivia, and he has questions, but those aren't for secret things. Those aren't to,
Right.
come across something. Those are because, a kid might want to go through a crossword puzzle and have a good time and reinforce learning. And
Right.
that this is not a knock on Sam. It's actually really good for his book
No, it's just
because
different. Yeah,
what
because his is an all age, and it's like for kids, and they can do their own, like they can finish the comic in some of them where they can write the last 4 pages. There's a comprehension test.
it's
Yeah,
that it's educational. It also reinforces. It also provides an activity. This,
right.
on the other
It's
hand,
not
is
the
an
same.
encoding position. And so, what is that like? Because that's also the other thing too, where you do a riddle, and then there's
Yep.
other things, and there's secret stuff going on, and that's
Yes.
another thing that unlocks something. And again, we
Yes.
go back to experience because I think there is now a shift in society where you need to have an experience for something. Now, some people say, "Look, I just want to read the book and I like the story, and that's fine."
Mhm.
But other people want an experience, or they want to participate,
Mhm.
and they want to feel like they're part of something, and
Right.
or that they have some input, or that they get to play in the world a little bit. So what is that like? Because I think that's solving a niche, and it's
Yeah, it is kind
solving
of a
like
niche thing that we
yeah.
do. The riddles are where we kind of like take a hard left into Alice in Wonderland and go down that rabbit hole. Um, the short films are pretty straightforward. You push play, you get what you get, right? The riddles are something different every time. So you might have like this one's a red reveal. I'm gonna tell you how to solve this riddle right now. So on the back, this is the red reveal. So there's blue ink and there's red ink. The red ink overwhelms the blue ink. But if you have a physical copy, I also sent you this little key. And if you take this key and you put it over the red, guess what? Now you can start seeing the blue because the blue will pop out. So if you take your little key and you run it down, sorry, with the tape, if you run it down the edge, the instructions pop out. All you got to do is follow the instructions and it will take you to the place. I'm trying to get more people to solve this one because Riddle 2 is coming out. And Riddle 2, it changes the game. Riddle 1 is kind of like, we'll get you to the place where everybody else who has solved the riddle. So you can, talk to each other and you can have bragging rights. And I will put like special releases just for the people that have solved the riddle. The second riddle, when you solve that, you get to interact with the character. I'm going to hide riddles in the comics. I'm going to have QR codes. I'm going to have like merchandise that could be the key. If you see keys or you see like skeleton hands pointing to something, I might have a black light message hidden there. There's you're gonna fall down the rabbit hole. There's phone numbers to call. There's websites to go to where you have to put in the passcode, but you have to solve the riddle to get the passcode to get it in. It's there's a lot of stuff coming.
Yeah, and even to talk about this, because I mean, obviously, I don't know if I showed you, but I have a black light glow in the dark comic that was part of an NFT project,
Cool.
and the whole book is done that way.
That's so
So
cool.
it was an expensive comic.
Oh, I'm sure. I can't imagine what it would cost to print that sucker.
It was expensive on an NFT level too. It was like 170.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if it's expensive to print, I'm sure it was super expensive as an NFT, and then everybody wants it because it's so exclusive.
It's an awesome book because when you read it with the black light, it's a different book than when you read it without the black light. There's stuff in it.
Awesome. And I plan on doing that where like you see one image and you put a black light and an image underneath it pops out. You know what I mean?
And so this is the thing that I'm getting at is that I think that at this point, people say, "Oh, print is dead." No. Print is fine and well. The issue with print is that if you're printing just the same stuff over and over again, you're not doing spot photos, you're not doing glow in the dark, you're not doing metal, you're not doing, something clever. You're not doing a cutout with like a plastic thing over it and then you open it up and then it reveals something else. If you're not doing that, it gets to a point where it gets boring. Or,
Yes.
you have hardcover books that have like a hole in the center, and then you open it up, and then it's another image behind it. Like
I
I don't know how
love
to
all
describe
of
that.
that.
Or even text raised a little bit on
Yes.
hardcover books as well, where even if it's only raised by like 3 milli-inches or whatever it is, or like I don't know how, or a centimeter, whatever it is. I
Where you
think
can
that
feel it.
this is where we're at as people, is this idea that print is not dead. I think you have to get creative with print, because
Yeah.
again, it's an experience. Because you can go
Right.
into a comic shop, and that's where I think we're at, where you have to attract me to buy your book
There's
for
a
a
lot
good
of
reason.
competition.
And art isn't the thing that's attracting people right now.
It's hard. It's hard to set yourself apart. You have to do something that is different. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I went to, where it's like you can watch the short films, you can do the riddles, and we're going to have this immersive experience along with the comic. Comic has great art, comic has great story, but that's not enough these days. I mean, if it was a script and I pitched it to Netflix, they're going to look at me and be like, "Yeah, so what? What do you bring to the table?" So that's where it's like, okay, we got to think of something creative. And I love riddles. I love that kind of experience for myself. So, of course, that's what I want to offer to my fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's even go into this too, because obviously, look, I think that art definitely matters right
Of
now.
course.
I think cover art, I think finding artists, I think coming up with new covers and coming up with ideas for new covers is really, really smart. I think that, even just ideas. I mean, Ivan Tao is a good example of this, where he does negative space covers, and
Hmm.
he's killing it with that, with Zenoscope and a few other places. And he does a great job with it. And I think that there is a point where art does carry stuff, and amazing cover art carries things, and well,
Right.
that's getting expensive. And obviously, I know Kickstarters that do very well with that, but I also think that there is the idea of metals and entering that realm. I think there's the idea of Jim Noble is
Hmm.
doing a glow in the dark metal.
That's cool. I've seen that. I want to do it. I got to talk with my publisher. We do have metal covers available this round. I'm excited.
So I mean, what is this like? Because Kickstarter has become very complicated right now. Where I'm going to drop a bunch of names. I mean, obviously Chris Brown was on last night, and his board game is not doing well. But that's a little bit more complicated, because it's a board game, and I am not as knowledgeable in the board game world as I am in comics. But
Yeah.
to give you, I guess, a one-to-one comparison, Paul Gomez with
Hmm.
Bushy Boo Circus, he
Yep.
struggled to fund massively. And it's weird because everybody bitches on Kickstarter saying, I want an affordable priced book. I want a book that is good, not even great, good. They're
Hmm.
selling for good. Hell, these people are selling for average, and I want it to be delivered on time, and yet he barely funded. And this is not a knock on Paul. I love Paul. Paul's great.
Paul's great. I'm going
And
to chase him around Cowtown with a potato peeler.
And
Check in on
Bucci
that
Boo
later.
is great. It's a good book. It's a good book. If you buy it for $10, you're getting a $10+ type book where it's
Right.
enjoyable. It's a good book. You're going to get it relatively on time and within reason. And yet he can't get funded. And then we have other people in the comic world who don't deliver their books on time, are late by 3, 4, 5 months, charge way more than $10, and those people get funded in an hour.
I don't
And
get it. If I had the answer to that, I would be funded in 24 hours too. Our goal is a little higher than most because I'm paying Marco his page rate. It's like when an artist, let's talk about like Brandon from Avalon, you know what I mean? Like him and his team, they don't pay themselves. So that $2,000, that's their goal, is basically to print and their merch and to ship. And
I'll
that's
throw
it.
you another name. You don't know him, Tyler Carpenter.
No, I don't.
Tyler does Girl with the Mega Fist. It's a
Okay.
manga, and Tyler's the artist and the writer.
Hmm.
So Tyler doesn't have any expenses between the writing and the art. So it's printing. Now it's his time.
Right.
And we can't sit here and say, wait a second, he doesn't, pay himself. It's his time. His time is worth money. And if we were to put him at a page rate, I don't know what Tyler's page rate is. But
Right.
you also have to factor in his writing page rate as well.
Right.
And so, but Tyler owns it. And I don't know Brandon and his team. I don't know if it's a co-ownership deal. I don't know if it's cooperative or a profit sharing deal, whatever it is. That's different too. But if it's they own 50-50, him and his artist, that's a different discussion
That's
as
different.
well, where, then you have equity. But again, equity is you're earning the equity through your page rate. So you're still not working for free. And if
Right.
that gets optioned, or every sale or every book that's printed, or the money from the Kickstarter, it's complicated.
It's
So,
all complicated. It just depends on how people make that
I
kind
mean,
of
to
it's like
throw,
what do you call it? It's their contract. It's how they decide to move forward. Like Marco and I have 100% ownership of the project. So I pay him up front his page rate. So, if the Kickstarter does $12,000, that goes to me. He doesn't get a percentage of that, but I'm paying him up front. So he's always paid. He doesn't have to worry about,
he
getting
makes less
50%
money. He
equity and
has
then we
less
don't
risk.
fund,
He doesn't have any risk in his
Right.
circumstance
There's no risk
beyond
for him.
his only risk is that issue 3 won't get made if you
Right.
don't fund. So his only
Right.
risk is that he will not have a job on this next book because of money. But he
Right.
got paid for that book. But again, even if you do fund, he still might not have a job, because guess what? You might say, look, I'm taking a 4-month break. You know what I mean? In which that risk could remain the same regardless of you funding or not.
This is true.
And so that's not it's a risk either way, but it's more of a risk if you don't fund. But
Right. Exactly.
he's getting paid upfront too, and obviously, I mean, he's getting credibility from it,
Of
and
course.
he's
Gets
getting
free
something.
publicity.
Yeah.
He
So, but
benefits.
I mean, I was going to say about my show, like people say, "Oh, Andrew, you're hosting this show." Well, I don't pay myself either, but my time
Right.
is still worth something.
Right.
And
And that's how
so,
I am. Like, I don't pay myself from the Kickstarter. Right now I don't, at least. You know what I mean? Because we're so new. We're only on issue number 2. You know what I mean? So everything, like if we have extra money, it goes back into the project, and we're doing, we're going back and we're coloring pages from issue 1, or I can upgrade merchandise. You know what I mean? So it's like last time we had plastic keychains. This time we're having metal and stamped leather keychains. So it's like when we get that little buffer, we can do nicer things for the fans,
it's tricky on that
Yeah.
too. But even to talk about that, I mean, one of the things is that, I mean, I run an eBay business and I pay myself immediately, but I don't even pay myself. It goes straight
Mhm.
into the stock market and I invest.
Right.
Legitimately, the whole point of my eBay business is that any distribution after taxes goes straight into the stock market. And I don't see any of that money. I won't see any of that money till I'm about 60. Um, I have access to it right now. I can cash out anytime I want, but
Right.
I'm not going to
But
touch
should
it.
you?
There's a
Let it
whole
grow.
bunch of stuff, and if you want to know what I'm doing with my money, that's behind a paywall for a good reason.
Let's
I,
have
I
a
will
private
legitimately,
conversation.
I can make legitimately anybody worth millions and millions of dollars very easily, and that's not me boosting. That's me not bragging. That's me just calling it like it is. I know
Mhm.
exactly how to make people worth about $5 to $6 million over 35 years. I know the exact formula to do it, and I can do it on pretty much about $3,000 a year,
Nice.
which is insane. It's insane. The mathematics of it are crazy. This is why I love people who have really good Kickstarters, because I can make them filthy fucking rich. Oh, it just makes me so excited. It makes me so excited. Like, I'll just wake up at 4 a.m. and I come up with it. And I'm like, oh yes, it's
Idea.
amazing.
I know. Don't you love those like 3 a.m. ideas when you're like, I have to write this down, because otherwise, like, you go back to sleep and it's gone.
Oh, it's epic. But even to go further into that, I mean, one of the things is that obviously when you run a Kickstarter and you pay back your artist and then you make a surplus, I mean, at what point do you actually take a distribution? I mean, versus giving it back to the fans, because this is the problem I have with everybody's Kickstarter right now. Is I'm like, great, your goal was, let's say that the real money you needed was $5,000, but you said your goal at 2,500, right? So now you did $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
Great. It cost you $5,000 to do everything. And
Where's the rest of that money going?
what do you do now with that $2,000? Because this is my whole problem with everybody in comics right now, is that, do you take it as a distribution? Do you move it forward? Do you push it outward? And I don't really know what everybody's thinking in comics, because it's a very tricky thing, because let's be realistic, most comics don't make money on Kickstarter.
No, they don't. They don't. And really it depends on the creator. I think everybody's going to do something different depending on their product. Like, and especially for me in the beginning, my focus is to get fans, right? I want people to get sucked into the comic and become returning fans, which we've had quite a few from the last Kickstarter. There's a lot of returning backers, which says something about our product. You know what I mean? So, but you still got to get those new people too. So you want to get those people. So you still have to do good things and get people in. So it's like, I spend my extra money a couple ways. One, I'm going to pay Marco ahead so we can keep moving on the comics. So if we run out of funds, we don't have to wait for the Kickstarter distribution to move. And two, I'm looking at what can I do to enrich the experience. So like building another web page that, when you solve the riddle, you could go there, or buying a burner phone that I could hook up a message to, so that way when you solve the riddle, you can call the burner phone, stuff like that. It costs money. So that's like, do I put it into that? I'm not really into paying myself at the moment, just because I want to further the project. Once we're cushy and we got all the fans, should I start paying myself? Probably, because I'm, in the red based off of what I'm doing.
Because this is where this goes, because I think that a lot of creators don't get it. And this is one of the things that
Maybe they need
obviously
business school.
Oh, what'd you say?
Business school. Learn how to run a business.
I mean, look, I speak about this, and I spoke about this, where it took me almost 6 years to get to a point where I'm doing really well on eBay. It took me a very long time. It took me a long time on a scientific level to figure out what to buy, what not to buy. It took me a very long time to figure out how to take a distribution. And this is my whole thing, is that I think people don't know how to take distributions. I also think that there's people who do this full time as their job. And if you do this full time as your job, you got to realize that, it's tough. Having a day job isn't so bad. And because this is why my eBay business works. I have a day job.
Right.
So I'm doing well on my eBay business in sales, but I have the ability to deploy that capital in new ways. And this is one of the struggles that I'm having, where I have comic ideas and I could write a comic, but do I spend that $9,000, or do I actually put it into something that is working, producing capital? And this is the trick that I'm dealing with. And I'm very open about it, where do I want the glory? Because most comics don't do well. It's a brutal business. And also, do you really want to put all that effort into it? And then figure out saying, okay, cool. How do I take a distribution? How do I have an IP? And let's be realistic. The way you make real money in comics is you either sign a deal with Image, where they then become exclusive. You sign a deal with Scout, but guess what? You sign a deal with Scout, you're on a 5-year contract with them, meaning they own it for 5 years. And then let's say in issue 6, they say, fuck it. This didn't sell. You know what happens? You can't touch it for another 4.5 years. And so it gets really complicated, because while you can still do Kickstarters, you can't go to a comic store. You can't go to another publisher. And guess what? A lot of those publishers are like that. And guess what? It's okay if you have a 6-issue series, but if you have an ongoing series, that's what it is. Or better yet, let's say you have a 3-parter and issue 1 comes out and it flops. You can't touch issues 2 and 3 in a comic store for a while. So you might be able to do a $9,000 Kickstarter on issue 2 and maybe a $15,000 on issue 3, but you might be able to print like another 100 copies of your books, but then your series is done because you can't sell to another publisher. And this is the problem it's so out there, and it's so complicated with Kickstarter right now, just on that front. And even how do you give what you want to your backers, but also make sure you're getting paid to keep the lights on?
Right. No, yeah.
because one of the things about Tyler, and I don't think Tyler's gonna mind me talking about it. Tyler has Patreon. So me and him, when he was on my show, we were talking about this. And one of the things is that every month he'd produce a new chapter on Patreon. And so he would see money coming in and those people get the chapter. And then it creates a very interesting cycle because when you're getting paid up front or as you're producing the work, you have a different mentality. First thing, when you're doing it on Kickstarter, and it also eases up stress, it covers bills, it covers problems, and it also sort of incentivizes you. I mean, I just got my paycheck. I just got my paycheck at work for my first 2 weeks, and I'm now incentivized to go in on tomorrow at like 8:30, and I'm incentivized to leave my house at 6:30 in the morning because I got my paycheck. You know, when I sell something on eBay, it incentivizes me to sell another item and sell another item, and then it reinforces and it creates a very positive feedback loop. And so what is that like for you? Because I feel like Kickstarter doesn't create that incentivization.
It doesn't, and this is something I've had conversations with like Paul Gomez and like some of the other guys where I'm just like, where do we get off of this loop? Okay, because I'm still relatively new. Like our first issue was printed in July, so it's not like I'm a pro at this. So that's my question kind of to the community is, okay, where do we stop Kickstartering? Like, what's the out from that? You know what I mean? How do we break that cycle? Because I would like to not have to Kickstarter every issue and go through all the effort and the stress. It is a lot. Is it fun? I like interacting with the fans. Absolutely. But how do I get off of this horse and actually start? But it's like,
I know the answer to it. I really
get
do.
signed by a publisher.
Nobody likes the answer. The answer is that you don't. And here's why. Because the answer is that you go and everybody else, we go on Kickstarter right now. There's like 200 Kickstarter projects. And then you go and there's Scout, there's Second Sight Publishing, there's Source Point Press, there's like 14 others, right? And so they're all getting hundreds of submissions every single month. You go to Antarctic Press, right? Antarctic Press wants to reprint it in Exciting Comics, 8 pages of your book, and then they're going to do it the next month. The money isn't great. The royalty that you're getting, it's okay, but it's not where the real money's at. What I think everybody has to do, and this is just my thought, is you got to build up your fan base and get really high ticket items. So that's what you really have to do. And you have to basically do $40,000 campaigns. Now, to do a $40,000 campaign, you got to have good coverage. You got to have good story. You got to have a fan base. You got to invest a lot of money in building out your fans and finding high valued fans. Brian
Ripperverse.
What?
And then you skip Kickstarter and you build your own page where people come just to you, and then you don't have to pay.
I don't even think that's right either.
The Ripperverse, where my guy made so much money on his issue.
But here's what I think is going to happen with that. So this is the problem with that. I think it's an average book. I don't think there's anything special about it.
Aren't coming back.
I think it's all hype. I think it's average. People are saying, "Oh, it's great," and people are giving him shit for it. And I'm going to get shit for this too, because what we have done in this community is we have said, "You've raised $3 million. You must have a great product." That's what we've done. That doesn't mean anything. If you raise $3 million, the only thing you've done is raise $3 million on something outside of Kickstarter. Do you know how he raised his money? He did what the alcohol industry did 12 years ago. And all of you in Kickstarter legitimately got down and groveled on your knees and said, "This is the best thing since sliced bread." Which means you're all 12 years late.
But I think he was onto something about skipping the Kickstarter and going, just pay me directly. But he had already spent the time and built his fan base, and then he had already spent a lot of his money developing the product. I didn't say it was a good product.
How did he build
the time and money?
How did he build his fan base?
He had a YouTube platform.
He was with Blaze TV.
Okay.
So one of the things that people don't understand is that he was with Blaze TV. He was in hip hop, and he built it, but he also built it on other networks. So what he did is that he had 120,000 Twitter followers. So the thing is that to do that now is complicated. It's not impossible, but he took
algorithms have all changed.
He's taken a very woke thing. And what he did is that he took basically a political, almost right-wing ideology and then brought in and said, I'm going to do a comic, and served an underserved market, essentially. And he also is topical. The question with him is that, is it repeatable? Is he going to get
Yeah, that's a
return
good question.
customers? Look at Brian Polito.
That's
Brian Polito
different.
with Lady Death
Right.
has done what everybody needs to do on Kickstarter, which is get more backers and get higher paying backers. So if you look
Yes.
at Brian Polito's last 5 campaigns, the backer count has gone up and the average money the backer is spending has gone up.
Right.
That's what we need to do. And it's really,
And that's kind of what my Kickstarter is looking at right now. Like, I had a lot of return people, and the people that did return overall spent more money than they did with me last time, which is good. However, I still need those numbers. You know what I mean? Like, if I get, let's say, 50% of my backers back and they all spend more money, that's great. But that's still 50 backers, which is where I'm at right now.
yes.
You know, I already had all the 50% people show up, which is beautiful. And I love them all. And I love interacting with them because they're great people. But I still need to fund my Kickstarter. So I need to go out and find those other 50 people who want to be a part of that and come out. You know what I mean? It's like, they don't know we exist yet. That's the problem.
It's the idea that what's going on too is that I think a lot of people in comics, they're trying to sell a book versus themselves as a writer or an artist. So one of the things is that I'm going to drop a name, Paul Green. Paul Green is not an artist. Paul Green is a brand. J. Scott Campbell is not an artist. J. Scott Campbell is a brand.
Agreed.
And Jonathan Hendricks is a brand. Scott Snyder is a brand.
Right.
He's not a writer. I don't view Scott Snyder as a writer. I view him as a brand.
I see
Now
what
he
you're saying.
happens to be a writer. He follows me on Twitter. It's funny. My interactions with Scott are interesting. I met him a few times, and we've had some conversations, and he knows who I am, oddly enough, which is God knows how. I mean, I'm not that important to know, but apparently it's weird. Life
You're a
is
good
funny.
guy.
But
Don't talk yourself down.
No. When I was starting to interview stuff, and I started just reviewing a lot of stuff, and I wrote a very interesting review that he actually sort of shot me an email about. It was a very interesting thing because I dissected his book in a very interesting way, and I wrote a negative critique, but I thought a fair critique on his book, AD After Death. And I was like, I didn't like the prose element of it. I thought it was a cop out.
Huh.
I thought it was a fair criticism. And he's like, I'm
Right.
sorry. He actually read the review, and he thought, I think he respected that somebody said, this is kind of a good point. It's very interesting when somebody says you kind of have a good point. I didn't say it was badly drawn. I didn't say the concept was bad. I just thought it was
And that's big of a person to receive negative criticism and to say, like, yeah, you got a fair point. You know what I mean? And to take it to heart and maybe not repeat it or change what they were thinking. You know what I mean? So
I mean, I really thought about it. I mean, I spent a week writing that review because I really thought about it, and I put a lot of effort. I mean, it was like 700 words. It was one of the longest articles I ever worked on. And I tell the story because I thought about what I was writing versus just saying, yeah, it was interesting, and I thought they missed the point here, but I thought it was good over here, and it was fascinating. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, but I agree that you need to find more backers, and you need to find new blood, and that I think that's a problem too. It's always the problem where finding new blood is always an issue.
yeah, because it's like, well, I mean, I did a lot of interviews last time. What I'm changing this time is I'm doing cons too. So we did Arlington. I'm going to Cowtown. So, I mean, it's great to have the shows, but a lot of times you get the same returning guests for the show. Like I do a show on Tuesdays called the Tuesday Morning Brew. We get the same people every week that come and watch us. They've already all backed me. So at this point, I'm like, everybody come back me. And they're like,
this is
we already
interesting.
have our money. You know what I mean?
Let's actually talk about that, because this is one of the things that there's a reason why my show is set up a certain way, where I have a cosplayer on, I have a wrestler on, I have a voice actor on, I have a comic person on, because what it does is that it attracts different audiences. And the idea is that maybe this cosplayer, and he's going to go tell a bunch of his friends, and let's say that I have a 5% conversion rate, and but that's 5 people who now come and check out what is going on with the other stuff, whether they back or not. they're now 5 new people. If I have
From a
a
different genre too. So it's like now that's your new blood. So that's very smart.
And so this show was set up in a particular way almost 10 years ago. And it was set up, to not necessarily do that, but partially to do that. But it was set up saying, hey, look, I like wrestlers, I like, voice actors, I like comic people. Let me see what I can mix up here and create a pop culture event versus saying just comics. And because somebody who's interested in One Piece, might, it's not that hard to get them interested in, another comic about something that's American. It's a little bit of a jump, but I think that's something that people also have to, start realizing is that you got to get outside of your norm. I'm going to throw you an idea. I mean, would you go on to a show? I'm trying to think of it that's going on a show talking about wrestling, right? Like I go on
any
shows.
show.
I'm a big wrestling fan. I go on shows all the time talking about wrestling, right? And then they're like, hey, Andrew, what you got going on? And then I'm like, well, yeah, I run this show over here, but my show doesn't come up till the very end. But guess what? 70 people are watching that. And like, oh, yeah, I interview wrestlers. And I've had a blast. And like, sometimes they'll ask me a few questions about it. I'm like, who's your favorite, wrestler that you interviewed? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to interview, Chris Daniels. Like, dude, you interviewed Chris Daniels when? Chris Daniels is the head of talent and relations of AEW, for those who don't know. And the idea is that then usually these guests ask me a few questions. Then we talk about Monday Night Raw. And then I get a chance to plug myself. But when I'm on those shows, I'm outside of comics at that point. And I'm in uncharted territory. But that's the point, is that I think a lot of creators need to go outside of the comic world, because guess what? There's a lot more outside of comics.
Right. I do a lot of interviews with martial art forums. I've done like a FMA forum. I've done 2 or 3 interviews with them. I did this coffee talk with Tuhan Jesse, and it's mostly, based on Filipino and Indonesian martial arts, which I'm big in that community as well. So I'll talk about martial arts, and then I'll be like, I also do this comic book thing. So then they let me pitch there too. And I've gotten quite a few backers from the martial art community. So yes, I feel you. I'd like to do more of that. It's just, finding the people.
I'm in an interesting sector, because a lot of the time when I do interviews, I actually do not do comic interviews. I talk about finance. When I talk about alternative investing, a lot of these shows are like, where have you been? It's because nobody talks about this. And people are like, you've done something in comic books that are fascinating. I've been on people who are crypto experts and they want me on their show because they're like, this is cool. And I've been on shows who tend to do very well and are big into real estate and stuff like that, because again, and I pitch my social media at the end, but I'm not there because anybody's going to Google my name and it's going to pop up, and people have. And it's crazy. I've been on shows that have actually referred me business to my eBay store. And 4 or 5 years ago, and have returned me a good amount of money to my eBay store every year from 4 or 5 years ago. So I just think that it's a big problem where I think comic creators are very creative in the comic space. I think that all of a sudden, when it comes to marketing and interviewing and getting on shows, they're not creative.
It's hard though if you don't know what you're doing and you don't employ someone who does.
I don't know about that though. I don't know.
It isn't and isn't. You learn from experience. If you've never done it, you don't have a basis to. It's not like they teach that at school. Where do you go to learn that? I've had people come to me like, Laurie, we see you on all these shows all over the place. How are you doing that? I'm like, I email them, I send them a copy of my comic, and I ask if I can come on the show. Like, that's not that hard.
Yeah, I take a different approach, actually. I don't go to all these shows first. I actually go to shows second. I go to like all these shows after the fact, and I like to go on to more like places like Podmatch and Pod Deck and other places, because I want to be on the harder shows up front that are actually outside the sphere, because the candy is when I want to be. Like, I view all these comic shows. Sam Barra has a show. To me, that show is candy, where that's an easy show and it's comic based. And I want to be on all the hard shows and the stuff that's obscure and the stuff that's not directly in the comic world. Because to be very honest, any show that's directly in the comic world, it will return me a backer or
Mhm.
multiple backers. But I want that stuff not first. I want the stuff that is out there that may or may not return me something, but is also that I guess it's targeting a very, very for places removed is a good way to put it.
That
Because
makes sense.
it's easier to do 14 interviews that are comic related all at the same time. And
Which is what
I
I'm
know I'm
doing.
gonna get those.
Get them all
I know
done, and then I'm gonna go find some more. Because, like you said, I need to get new people. So I'm gonna be calling those martial art people, like, "Hey, let's do something. Let's talk." You know?
But then again, I'm not doing much media for a reason right now because I could tell you that come the end of October, I am going to be booked doing a bunch of fun stuff. And again, though, I
Well, your
don't
class
want
is
to.
coming.
I don't want to do media. I mean, I'm taking a Howard Stern approach when he had his book where he did selective media.
Mm-hmm.
This way, when I do selective media, these are the shows that I want to be on. I don't want to be on everybody's show. I don't. I really don't. I don't find value actually in being on 50 shows. I find value in being on less because it's my time. But I'm going to say to those people who are, I'm saying, we're going to need 2 hours. You better clear your schedule because I'm an open book and we're going to talk about everything comic related, money related, economics. I mean, I'm an open fucking book and it's going to be a fun one.
I
And
need a clip of that right there. I'm an open fucking book.
hey, you can but it's up to you. You can do whatever you want. It's a free country. But even going further into this too, because this is the thing that we were talking about before. People are really struggling on Kickstarter right now, and
Mm-hmm.
Kickstarter is a very complicated territory. I feel.
I think there's too many people on there. It's hard to find anything organically that you're interested in. There's too many options, but it's like the problem is like I have a buddy, Lee, when he did one on Crowdfunder, which is new. That's the backer kit one, right? Um, he says that people don't find him there either because nobody is there. So it's like it's a
we,
double-edged sword. It's like
we've
when you're
had this
on Kickstarter, there's too many
conversation.
people, but when you leave Kickstarter, there's not enough.
We've had this conversation where I'm not anti Indiegogo per se, but I also don't feel comfortable on Indiegogo. And to get me to go to Zoop or Crowdfunder or some other, thing, I mean, I hate to say this, but like, I don't want to have 50 accounts.
I don't either.
It's. I mean, I already have like 14 streaming accounts. I don't want to keep adding to this. I have a lot of investment accounts. I have a lot of other accounts. I have like 9 Gmails. Like, I'm at the point
No,
where
thank you.
I don't want to go and create a whole nother, password thing. And then I forget my password.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh my gosh. And then it's not working. And then their thing is down. It's just like, it's stressful for me. It really is. And somebody be like, Andrew, it's a password. Calm down. But like,
Having
it's
all the accounts is like, I don't want to do that.
so to me, that's I think the problem. And I agree that it's saturated. I think that even cosplay. I mean, my last guest and me were talking about it before you came on. It was a cosplay. We're talking about that cosplay saturated. I mean, look
Yeah.
at podcasting. Podcasting is massively saturated.
It just took like in the last 2 years, it's insane.
I mean, everybody has a podcast. Not
Everybody.
everybody's good at it. Not every podcast is the same. Most podcasts are not that great, to be very honest. I
Because you
mean,
don't need anything except for your computer and a microphone. You can be a podcaster.
I don't have a microphone right now. I just need my
You just need a
computer.
computer.
Genuinely, I mean, I'm not saying my audio is perfect, but it's not bad.
You can be a podcaster with just your phone. You know what I mean? It's like there's little equipment or school or knowledge or anything needed. You can just be one. So that's why it's just like, I'm going to do this. Okay.
It's tricky. It's tricky. And then also, what I'm finding now, and I don't know about you, but like even just media wise, I'm now getting hit up by a bunch of people. And people who, and I'm sure I'm going to be speaking to a bunch of people about this at some point, but like, this is me and a friend are going to be talking about this sooner rather than later. Are podcast hosts getting taken advantage of by people in comics? And I mean, is it the idea that people in comics don't, really understand that running a show is expensive? Are they bringing something of value? Should, you be respectful? Should you bring something of value? Should you actually help to promote the show you're on? Should you bring economics to it? I mean, seriously, I'm promoting your book. I mean, there's people's books that I'm promoting, and I'm like saying to myself, like, you can't even share it on
You
your
can't
wall.
even share the link?
You can't accept the Instagram reel that I put up on Instagram as a collaborator, which will get more views to it because it's my audience and your audience, and you can't accept that? Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, that's hard to understand.
You
People.
can't send me a PDF of your book when it's done. Like, do you really understand where we're at? And then I see those same people saying, I don't want to pay you. Then they'll spend $300 on 5 campaigns. And I'm like, you can't give me $5? What the fuck? I mean, it's a hypocrisy. It really is. And believe me, I'm going to start calling people out on that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If you spend $300 and then you can't take care of the people who are promoting your shit, I mean, maybe you got to reevaluate your life. And then you asked to be on my show when you weren't a good guest. And you asked, and then when I asked you, you gave me shit. And you asked now because you realized that you didn't build any goddamn relationship. And let's be realistic. People in comics do not build good relationships with interviewers and media. They don't.
I've seen you post that a few times. Thankfully, I'm not one of those people. I build relationships. And I believe I bought you a cup of coffee last time, and you'll be getting another cup of coffee from me, sir. Because that's how this goes. And it's like, if I'm on people's shows and their creators, I support their creative stuff. And I promote their show, and I share all the links because that's what you're supposed to do.
The only reason why I didn't
subscribe to their channel.
The only reason why I didn't build you a reel is I was legitimately trying, and my Mac is failing, and I'm buying a new Mac. So legitimately,
I'm in the same boat. I'm ready for a new Mac too, sir.
If I unplug my charger, this thing will shut down.
Oh, I have a desktop, but it's like all the memory is full. I have to delete stuff so I can make new things. That's where I'm at.
For those who want to know, my Mac is 5 years old. It's a laptop. I charged my battery 1,100 times. The average max battery should be 1,000. It's not like I did anything wrong. So I got really good light.
Over time, it does that.
And so what's actually happening is that the battery is expanding in my laptop. So basically, I'm buying a new Mac tomorrow night.
Are you? Congratulations. That's exciting.
I have a job. I can afford it. It's not a money problem. What it is that it's just a pain in the ass to set up a new Mac.
Oh, God. Yeah. And then all your stuff is on the old one.
Most of my stuff it's backed up in a USB drive, which is really helpful. A lot of my files are backed up, all that stuff. So I have all my files. Maybe I'm going to lose maybe like 1% of my shit, but it's not that big of a deal. The important shit is backed up. I'm not throwing out the Mac, so I could always access it.
Right. Yeah, we always say that. Oh, I'll have it just in case. And then it like dies. Then you can plug it in and it doesn't turn on. It's just like a blank screen with the light.
But that's the only reason why I didn't build a reel for the 2 guests today. Because it legitimately was dying on me because
I brought my own reel.
but that's the only reason why. Otherwise, I would have done it because I do it for everyone, and it was just one of those things where I just was like, I had a great idea for your reel and the music, and I'm just like, oh, motherfucker.
It's okay.
But I did have an amazing reel for Pat Chan.
That's cool.
Brilliant reel for Pat Chan, and if you know who Pat Chan is, and you really know who Pat Chan is, you'll appreciate.
I'll have to go watch it and then research Pat Chan.
It's funny. It's
I see all these names and I'm like, I
didn't know that Pat Chan was 35, and I was like, damn, dude, like what the fuck did I do with my life? Pat Chan makes me feel like incompetent. Like I'm like, it's amazing what the guy's done. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think Pat Chan is one of the best comic writers of our day.
That's cool. I need to go check him out then.
But look up Destiny New York. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. But anyway, getting back to the creator side, like I think this is part of the problem with Kickstarter right now is I think a bunch of people don't understand that you need to make friends with every interviewer, and whether that's paying them, whether that's just saying, "Hey, how's your day going? I hope that you're having a miserable Christmas." Because if somebody says to me, "You're having a miserable Christmas," I'm gonna be like, "I hope you're having one too. I hope you're having a bad one too." And guess what? It's called building a relationship. Because if somebody wishes you a miserable Christmas, they're clearly not trying to be mean. They're trying to be funny. And they're actually putting an effort to try to ruin your holiday. See, I
That's
can
funny.
respect somebody who wishes me a miserable Christmas. In fact, I think everybody this year should wish me a miserable Christmas and a very happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, you got it. You're gonna
If
be
somebody
like,
seriously sends me,
Laurie, send me a miserable Christmas. And be
don't
like,
you just send me like a DM on Christmas in my like Facebook account? I hope you have a miserable Christmas and I hope you got coal. I would think it'd be funny. I think it'd be hilarious. And I'd be like, when do you want to come on my show? It's going to be my response. That's going to be my response. You could be a sworn enemy of me, and I will happily have you on my show if you send me that. Because it's
silly.
effort. E for effort. That's the problem.
You crack me up. All right, you're gonna get that text from me on Christmas.
gonna be
Dear Andrew,
funny.
I'm just gonna send you a GIF of coal. Here you go, buddy. I know you earned it.
And then I'm going to say, did you clear it with the Environmental Protection Agency first? See, I am funny.
Coal for you, sir.
But going
Krampus.
back to this problem in which that even with Kickstarter, all jokes aside, I mean, this is my issue right now is that I look at all these creators and I say, look, a lot of you are struggling because I don't think that you've built relationships. I also don't think that, you've gone out there and you've gone into warm audiences. And I think there's a lot of problems. And I think it's a marketing issue.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we all struggle with it at times, making sure to have that balance because it's like, yeah, you got to have that professional relationship, but it's like my kids are like, where are you, mom? When Kickstarters start, they're like, mommy is working. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, Friday, I have no interviews. So I'm going to spend all day with my kids, one of those things. But it's like, yes, you have to cultivate ongoing relationships with both podcasters and fans. You know what I mean? I make sure that my fans that come out and spend money, they get sneak peeks. They know what's going on.
So I'll throw another corporate idea out for everybody. So Zenoscope, it's no secret that I have a good relationship with Ralph. I have a good relationship with Joe Bruscia. Both of them are the co-founders of Zenoscope and co-owners of Zenoscope. And one of the things is that when you spend money and every once in a while they have prizes and they say it's a limited 100 print run. And what winds up happening is that with their super fans and people who take care of them, they'll sneak me a limited 25 print run. Or they'll sneak me something, and I know, and it's not an accident. It's not an accident.
No, you take care of your people.
I've interviewed them. I've interviewed them, and they get it, and there's a reason why. And so the point is that if you're running a campaign and you have somebody who's going out there and hustling your shit and getting you backers, and they've gotten you 10 backers, and there's an upgrade in your campaign, it's not a bad idea to upgrade somebody. It's not a bad idea. It's actually a really good idea.
I did that as well. So when I was fulfilling my campaign, I kind of like, okay, podcaster, and I slipped people something extra. You know what I mean? It was like something I didn't talk about, something I didn't promote. It wasn't on the Kickstarter. It wasn't a reward. It was just like, here you go. Thank you.
I'm probably going to be doing something in comics. And I'm probably going to sneak I'm actually going to probably sneak another book in what I'm doing into everybody's package and not tell them.
I have a plan for that too, for this coming campaign. I'm not going to talk about it, but yeah, I have a plan to sneak something into every issue now.
I have something I'm not going to tell anybody.
Right.
Not tell anybody what I'm doing. And people are going to be like, this is crazy, man. Like you spend an extra like $700 and you didn't tell anybody. And then I'm going to deny it. I'm going to deny it. If I get called out, I'm going to be like, I didn't do it. What are you talking about? I'm going to completely
How
just,
would you deny
if
it?
somebody asks me, I'm going to just move on. from the question, because I'm going to put a note saying, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. I'm going to put it in every single package because I don't need people to start knowing that reputation of me giving out extra books. Not because I don't want to do it again, but because why wouldn't I do it? I don't want people to know it. I'm because
Well, it's not about the recognition. It's about saying thank you. You know what I mean?
No. For me, it's just that why wouldn't I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't I do it? Like, it's the same thing that Oprah knows. Everybody knows Oprah has schools in Africa for underprivileged kids. Whoopi Goldberg has also schools in Africa. Nobody knows about it because she doesn't want anybody to know about it.
Right.
There's a reason why. Because one of those people is altruistic. The other, it's a media play. That's how I view it. In which that I'm not interested in getting credibility for throwing extra books into people's things for everybody's. Not even mentioning it as a stretch goal. Just doing it because I don't want the cred. It's just why wouldn't I do it?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I view it. But anyway, going back to this whole thing with things. I mean, I just think that like all these people just don't know how to market. I don't think they don't know how to even just sort of, I guess even just say hi. It sounds weird. Like, you know what it is? I joke around, but it's seriously, somebody said, hey man, how's your day? And also I think some people also don't understand that if you do an interview today, you know, and you're going to be running campaigns for the next 6 years, those interviews are freaking important.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on my show 3 times a year, those interviews are out in the internet. What you want is you want it to read that Path of the Pale Rider. You type it in on YouTube and 50 interviews come up across like 10 different people. That's really what you want.
Yeah.
And so like, there's a reason why I do interviews in a lot of ways. I don't really care if it does 10 views. I care if when I have 150 interviews, 300 interviews, 900 interviews that I have been a guest on, and then you're looking alternative investing, Andrew Davis pops up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or making money in comics, my name pops up. That's what I want, because I don't care if it was 15 years ago, because if it's still getting plays, I did an interview talking about my eBay business, and it actually refers me about $1,000 every year in business. That was 5 years ago. That's a very valuable interview. So that's the other thing too that I think that people don't understand about foresight.
Yeah, I have that same thing. Yeah, you can Google me. You can find me on YouTube. I have a bunch of interviews on Spotify. I do podcasts and I do YouTube videos too. So it's just like you'll find me just about everywhere. So
I think a lot of creators don't understand that. I mean, there was somebody who I interviewed, and they got a movie deal because they were on my show, and they're producing an indie film. There's real money in it. I mean, not like 100 million. You know what I mean? But if somebody wants to produce an indie film and he's going to give you $100K, that's real money.
A lot of money.
That's real money. And what would happen is that I don't know how much money is involved, but obviously a director got involved. They got the screenplay graded, essentially /rated, and now there's investors, and they're going to be starting to film a movie and off of a comic, and because some directors saw that interview.
Can they buy you a coffee? That would be nice.
You should
do a little more than that, but did they do anything for you?
Yeah. I think he got me a coffee, and he should really send me a copy of his book. Is what he should really do. I mean, I said to him, just buy me a beer if I ever see you, because again, I'm rooting for the underdog a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I hope that people are rooting for me. I don't know. I really don't anymore. There's a lot of questions. I mean, my January changed my perspective of things. But anyway, I digress. And so I think that's the other thing too that people need to realize is that you don't know when it's going to convert, and you don't know how influential it's going to be. Because guess what? A lot of people watch weird shit. Mm-hmm. If you look at some of the guests that I've had on, they're out of the box a little bit. But guess what? It's interesting. And again, maybe there's a reason why somebody's there. And I think this is a problem that I think a lot of creators don't understand, is that If you could buy, there are only two ways to get media. You either earn it or you buy it. There's no other way how to get media. You either earn your way in or you buy your way in. And by the way, they're both effective and can combine together, ultra effective. There's a book by ClickFunnels by Russell Bronson, and I think that's how you say his last name. And he talks about how to earn and pay for traffic. And you need to do both. And I think a lot of creators, it's a $10 book, and I think it'll change their perspective. I really do.
Cool. But
anyway, I digress. All about that. We're gonna get in trouble. I mean, people are gonna hate me in the next year. They're gonna hate me because I'm gonna start calling it out and just dropping it down, and people get pissed. And there's a bunch of us who are podcasters who are gonna start talking about this a lot more, and you're all gonna hate us. So sorry, everybody. Giving you a heads up.
I don't hate you.
Not yet. You don't.
Not yet.
So anyway, let's talk about your rewards.
We could always hash it out with a foam sword fight. There you go.
Yeah, let's talk about rewards here because there's this cover.
Woohoo! That's the A cover.
There's this cover, which is either the B or the C. I don't know which one it is.
I think that is C cover. That's Everett Watkins, The Christmas Tree of Doom.
Yes, I like how it's welcome to Santa Claus, and it's a 2 because it's issue 2. I thought that was a nice touch.
That's smart. He did such a cool job.
This is actually right
B. This is cover B. Jude behind bars with a dead disc and Dead West on his fingers, which is cool.
I didn't even see the finger, so that is cool.
That's a reference to the original title of this series was called Dead West, and I changed it because there's like 2 bands in a novel series that all share that name and they're active. So I was like, nope, we're not sharing social media. So Path of the Pale Rider.
And then there's this one right here, which is
this is Professor Richness. So if you're familiar with the comic related Madness Network, there's Rich Parada, who used to work for Marvel and DC in the 90s. So this is his cover. He's coloring this and I'm lettering it. So we're just waiting for him to find time. He just recently got hired by a university to teach art. It's like
he's in the UK, art. Right?
Huh?
Is he in the UK?
He is.
Yeah.
So he's in the UK, and he just recently got a new job as a professor at a university. So we call him Professor Richness now. So yeah. So he's working on this one. It's not quite done yet, and then I'm gonna letter it.
And then I believe there's also a medal. And I don't.
There's a medal. It'll be the A cover. Marco's
no, I didn't know, and that's why I was curious. I didn't know if it was going to be an E cover or it was going to be an A cover. And you're only doing 20 of them, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So that's something that's obviously interesting, and people like metal books right now. I mean,
yeah, that's the hot item. I did $100 for the metal cover and $100 for that Immortality backer level where we would draw you in the comic, and everybody wants the metal cover. So power to them.
It's very interesting what's going on with metals, and people like metals, and people view them more valuable. Also, preservation. They also grade out better to some degree, and so it's super interesting. And then obviously there's some other stuff too, where you get these books signed, and there's a signed package. There's also you could get one to read, one to preserve package, which is cool. That's always
a
nice.
Nat special. I like that one. My buddy is a friend of mine from school. His name is Nat, and before we even did the first Kickstarter, he's like, I want 2. And I was like, what? And he was like, I want 2 of the same. And I was like, can you explain that to me? And he was like, I want you to sign one. I'm going to put it on the shelf. He's like, I'm going to take the other one out and I'm going to smell it and I'm going to read it and I'm going to reread it. And then I'm going to put it away and I'm going to take it out again and I'm going to read it later. And I was like, okay, I understand now. So that's paying homage to my buddy, Nat, who is a comic book collector as well.
And then there's also the Choose Your Own Adventure book, which is always interesting.
Oh, that's killer. Did I tell you I ran a beta on that? The whole last time I was doing campaign for issue number 1, I don't know, I must have been like 6 or 7 podcasters or fans would ask me, don't you think this would be great for a Choose Your Own Adventure story? And I was like, okay, I'm listening. You know what I mean? After that 7th one, I was like, all right, we're doing it. So I wrote like the first half of the book and I let people play it. Everybody dies. It's really fun. But you get to like run bounties and you get to walk around in the wasteland and make decisions. There's one that like you get to participate as an undead person. So like you die, but your story keeps going. You get killed by all sorts of stuff. It's amazing. And then of course there is some art on the inside. It's mostly prose. It's 60 pages and it's a manga size book, but it's just a, American book. It just goes from left to right or whatever. You know what I mean? You're not reading it like a manga where it goes the other way. And then Marco did a spread cover, which is beautiful. It's color. Oh man, it's really good. I haven't released that yet. I'm waiting a little bit because we just released the short film. So I didn't want to like put all the good things out there all at once during the campaign. You got to spread them out. So that one's a really good one. And Charter's going to let me print as many as I need. I used Comics Wellspring last time, who is absolutely fabulous, but they have a minimum. So in order to order something, you have to at least order 25, right?
Yeah.
So with Charter, I can order 15 or I can order 35. It just doesn't matter. So I had a minimum on that one and I took it off because I want everybody who wants one of those to be able to get one. So you can get one in the backing level or you can add that as an add-on.
Is Charter a publisher or are they a printer or are they both?
Kind of both. They outsource their printing, but to a local printer. So they exclusively print with this printer. So they will be doing my print, but they are also a publisher.
So are they publishing your book too, or are they just printing it? Which one?
They're publishing. They're going to print it for me. I've paid the invoice for the print.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're going to help me print it, but it'll be less expensive and then no minimums. I pay it, but they're also going to help me publish it. They're going to put it in other stores. They're going to put it in their own store. They're going to promote it on their page. They send a lot of the people to my web page. So it's a beneficial to myself and to them because I bring all my fans to Charter where they can, look at the other stuff that Charter has as well. So.
Yeah, no. It's publishing is complicated. Getting a publisher is super complicated and interesting. And there's pluses and minuses.
I mean, there always is, but I'm freelance with them. So
yeah, so if the deal's not working out, you can leave. Essentially.
Correct.
Yeah, it's complicated because Scout has a different way they do things, and
they're all different, right? So I mean, but if Scout or Image comes and knocking, they're gonna be like, "Have a good time, see you later," Pat me on the back on the way out. Bye.
Yeah, and then it gets complicated. And the reason why I ask is that obviously retail packages, you have that, and that's important, and also getting it at the right price. I mean, I just picked up a retail package from somebody, and again, I'm maybe making like $50 in profit if everything sells accordingly. I'm not making a killing, but again, that's a whole different ballgame where I need to be in at a price where if you think your book's worth $20, I need to be in at a price at 10.
Right. So you can then sell it at that 20. Right.
Because I'll do the math for everybody really quickly. So if I buy a book that's worth 20, that retails for 20, I don't have the Kickstarter element to my store. So I have to market it myself. Then eBay takes 13%. So if I sell for 20, 13% of 20 is $2, and then it's it's about $2.60 to $2.80 is what it cost me. So now we're at $12.80 or about $13. I make $7 before shipping and taxes on it. So after I pay taxes, which is about $2 you need to put aside, you're looking at $5 a book in profit, which doesn't, so it's like, oh, but you're making $5. Well, yeah, but again, it's not a lot of money. The margins aren't bad. They're not great. They're okay. I just to give perspective to everybody, on a Zenoscope book that I buy for 20 that I sell for 60, I make about $22 in profit on that. There's a big difference.
And $5.
Big difference. And the Zenoscope book on a whole time is about 3 weeks. Which is insane for most. And that's average. I just sold a Zenoscope book in a private sale for 20 that I bought $25 for about 180.
There you go.
So again, it's I want to buy retail packages. I don't want to buy
No.
indie books because I think there's a market for it, but it has to be at the right price point.
Right.
And that's a tough one. It's a tough one for indie. It's a tough one, and indie creators do not get it. I'll buy more of your book if you get me down to a certain price point, or I'll buy 25 copies of your book if I can make it a store exclusive and put my little elf on it in the corner,
Right.
which isn't that hard to do.
No, it's not. It's just I send you the file.
Pretty much,
Or you're
yeah.
gonna do a sticker.
Yeah, exactly. I'll send you a PNG and I'll put my elf and I'll buy 25 copies of your book. There you go.
There you
Because
go.
then it makes it exclusive to my store.
Right.
And that's the key, and somebody's gonna want to buy it. Because if somebody who's a fan, it's gonna be boom, they need it. But I digress. Obviously you have all the immortality stuff. You got the Bones of Despair, which includes a collector's item.
It's messed up. I actually had someone back that one. I wasn't expecting it. I was like, it's super weird. It's kind of warped. I was like, but that's all I'm gonna say about it. And you have to put it like it'll go on your shelf. Yeah. And then, like, of course, one of my buddies who is kind of warped, he was like, I want it. I'm like, okay.
Kind of like a shofar. It's like the horn of a ram, probably all messed
The
up.
what?
A horn of a ram.
I'm not telling you what it is.
Oh,
wait. You have to wait. I don't know. I might not tell people what it is. I'll have to be like, shh, this is a secret war. When you get it, don't post it on social media. Just tell everybody it's crazy.
and then talk about also the final item I want to talk about is the Funko Pop, which is custom, and it's something that's people love custom pops right now. They're really big.
Try and get it where there's no glare.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, the guy does an excellent job. These are hand painted. He puts the cover of the issue on the back. So we'll have the A cover for issue number 2 on the back of the Big James pop. So I love these. So there's 2 levels with Funkos. There's the $200 level, which is the Jude St. Clair Funko. That's limit of 50, but that's the max I'm going to do. So if there's only 10 people that order them, then you're going to get one of 10 and it'll be more exclusive. You know what I mean? And that's all we're doing. We're not bringing them back next Kickstarter, because next Kickstarter, we're going to do whatever the singularity is. That's going to be the max of 50 next time. So the singularity level, which is gone, is going to be the white box Funko Pop of Big James, the Undead Bear.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
I would have done it slightly different.
What would you have done?
I would have added another 5, and I would have vaulted them, and I'll explain why. So Dustin Burnell was talking about this, where there's all this content that, like, he has body pillows, and so there's extras. And so since they have all these super fans, every once in a while they open up the vault. And if you've been backing from like the first Kickstarter, you missed out that pillow, he'll sell it to you for what it costs on the first one. And so what he's doing is but that means that you're a super backer of his stuff. So all of a sudden you'll get an email and then maybe there's only 3 left. And so what it does is that somebody who, missed it, there's 5 of them, and maybe, by issue 6 or 7, there's some of them out there, and there you go. There's like 3 left. And so what it does is that it creates a very interesting thing, but it still keeps it massively exclusive.
We could always do more in the future. So we could.
Then you're lying to your fans and you're killing them. Oh,
I really don't want to do more, but could I? If there's an overwhelming, desire, or people are like, I'll pay double. Well, then, yeah, of course I'm going to open up the vault.
What you would do is that you would create a variant of it.
Correct. I would do something different.
You could do the same
wouldn't be
character.
The same.
You could do the same character, but he's wearing a different shirt.
Or he's missing a hat, you know what I mean? Or he has a black eye, or you know what I mean? Or he's missing his shoes. I don't know. Shit like that happens to Jude in the Wasteland.
because what I'm gonna do eventually is that honestly, when I do my Kickstarter, I'm actually vaulting some of the books.
Yeah.
And so I'm vaulting a certain subsection. So if I print 200 copies of a book, I'm actually vaulting about 20 of them.
I am vaulting an item from the first Kickstarter, which I will do, everyone, but it's not what you think it is. And I'm not going to tell you. So eventually I'll have a collection, and I'm going to do the whole collection. Like, hey, have you been with us? Did you come in partway through? Because now you can get this, and it's a collection of all of these things since the beginning.
So I have a different philosophy. I'm actually taking 3 off for myself. And those go into my personal stash. But then I vault like 20 or I vault 10, because if you hit it big, all of a sudden, if you're charging $20 for a book, you can then charge 30, or you can give it to a super fan for the same price, and then you're rewarding the people who supported you from day one. And that's the idea. And so I'm smart enough.
I do like rewarding people for stuff.
You're still selling to them, but you're selling to them at the price back in the day.
Right.
So you're not giving it to them for free, but you're selling it to them for $20 when it's going for 100. And if they choose to sell it on eBay, that's up to them on the next position. But that's good for you too, because anytime your book is trading above what it's sold on Kickstarter, that's a good position to have. It's a good problem, but I digress. So yeah, there's all that stuff that's out there, and a variety of other stuff. And I'm sure that there's something that somebody wants, and you don't have it, and you want to do it. I'm sure you'll be happy to sell it to them.
Absolutely. I've already had people contact me for special requests, and I've accommodated them. So it happens every Kickstarter where someone's like, hey, I didn't see this, and I looked at your add-ons. I didn't see it available. And I was like, that's fine. We'll make it happen. You know what I mean? Just, instead of, I was like, add on a variant cover of this, and I'll make a note that I'm going to send you this instead, So it's like, we can always adjust things to your needs. If you are looking for something, I will make it happen.
The answer is
talk
not
about
no.
my crazy stretch goals.
Yeah, what are your stretch goals? I saw some of them.
We have merch. Just like we're gonna do a print, which is the easiest one to get. So it's like Marco colored the spread page from issue number 1 with the bear and Jude. You know what I'm talking about? It's the one where the bear is roaring. So he colored that. So I'm gonna give out prints of that. When we get to 100 backers, I'm going to release the blooper reel that goes along with the conspiracy theory video, because it's fucking funny. And then we have 2 color stretch goals. We're one in, right next to each other. So if we get to 6,500, we're going to release issue number 2 in color. We're going to skip that black and white phase and just go to color, which is what we want to do. If you've seen Marco's work, you've seen he does great black and white. But his color is just so superior. When he colors stuff, it just jumps off the page and comes to life. So like those 4 pages, I had him color that last one with Dwayne Fink falling off the table. And it's just so cool. I can't even explain it. Go look at it, people. You'll see what I mean. You know what I mean? When you take a look at it. So we're pushing for color, this one. If we get to the next stretch goal, that pays for us to go back and color issue number 1. And we will re-release a limited release of that issue number 1, so people can get the black. They already have the black and white, but now you can get the color. So we're going to do that. When we get to 10,000, Allison Miglone, which is a friend of mine, she's also a comic book creator. She's in talks to do stuff with Lucasfilm right now. She's taken off. She's going to do a one-shot of one of my characters called the Skinner. He's this really nasty guy, and you'll meet him in the Choose Your Own Adventure book. He kills a lot of people, but we're going to do a one shot for that character, just, like 8 to 10 pages, but you'll get to experience more of that world with a different artist, which is cool. It's like you get to see another person's point of view of what this world looks like. And then we get fun. So when we get to $12,000, I'm going to put on a red dress and I'm going to massacre some pumpkins on Halloween. I have 3 machetes and a sledgehammer, and I will let people vote on which tool of destruction you want me to use. And I'll get some pumpkins and I will dress up for prom and I will just fucking destroy because that's where I live, people. If we get to 15,000, Professor Richness in the UK will do the same thing. He will put on a red dress and he will massacre some pumpkins because that will make me laugh so hard I will pee my pants. Yes. So that's my crazy stretch goals, people. If we can see Rich in a red dress, that's just enough for me to die happy. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. So obviously a lot of stuff's going on, and super, super, super busy there. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes. It'll be very interesting to see where it goes. I think you'll hit your first stretch goal. I really do.
Yeah, I want to hit we're pushing for the first color one. So the 100 backers will get that. We did that last time. The first stretch goal with the prints, that's cake. Like we'll hit that. We hit that last time. We really are pushing for releasing in color. That's where we want to be. So if people can, back us, support us, come on out, just, even if it's $5 back in the PDF level, we love you. You're a part of our fandom. And that way we can release in color. It would just be so much better.
It's tricky. Color is expensive in a lot of ways.
It's like I have to pay a higher page rate. I have to print at a higher cost. So
yeah, it's complicated, and you know what it is? It's again, right now I am not doing comics for a good reason.
There's a paper shortage. Oh God, there's a lot going on that makes it extra difficult. I don't know, but for the viewers, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that make it more difficult for us creators. And it's just like, oh, joy, shipping cost me double what I quoted everybody. Great.
Yep. I mean, I'm in an eBay business and I know exactly. I charge $12 for shipping books. And people are like, why do you charge that? And I'm like, because that's what it costs to mail a Gemini.
Like, did you not know? Have they they want to know the weight for a reason. It's like, oh, and heaven forbid you ship to Canada. Whew. It's like I learned my lesson that time. I was not charging enough. I was like, holy hell. Here you go, people. Enjoy that.
I mean, I send books international all the time now.
God
through eBay, though. Through eBay. I mean, it costs me on eBay, ship to Kentucky, and then they handle it from there. But I get charged like $3 from eBay as an international fee, and they got to handle it themselves. But the people who buy it, they're spending like $500-600 on comics.
Okay.
So
then absolutely, we would do that for you. You know what I mean?
I mean, they're paying like $30 though from eBay, but they're saying, dude, like most of the people I ship to now in Canada, they're like, we can't get these books anywhere, and most people don't want to send it to us. And I'm like, okay, let's see what we can figure out.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, but they're like, it's still cheaper to buy from you. It's still cheaper to buy from you, and they'll spend. And I mean, I insure that shit though. I mean, I insure it. I mean, I've paid like $30 in insurance for
a reason. You have to when you're shipping like $500 worth of comics out of the country. Whew, can you imagine?
I insure anything over 100 now.
Yeah.
Even in the US, because I've learned my lesson.
Yeah, you can get burned real quick.
There was a $150 book that went missing. And I ate a good chunk of it, and I was pissed. It was a beautiful book. It was Spider-Gwen, I want to say 25 by Comics Exposure. I got such a good deal on that book. If that book came over to that guy, man, and he got it, I would have made a fortune. I bought the book for $31 graded.
Nice.
I sold it for $150. Yeah.
And it got lost in the mail.
I mean, it was insured for about $50. I wound up getting 67 back because that was what the shipping was. It was a wash, really. But it was brutal. Losing about $90.
Yeah, I was like, all that profit just went out.
I mean, it put me back at square one, but I was pissed off. And then I bought the book raw, and I have the book raw. So I'll get the book regraded because it's a good book to have. But like, man, I felt that one. But I digress. Enough about that.
Yeah. Ouchie. I feel you. I'm sorry.
But yeah, we would speak for 2 hours. I could go another
Oh, is
hour
it?
with you very easily.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was 2 hours. I'm having fun. So
Yeah. No, it's super interesting. And obviously you're always welcome. I'm sure we're gonna have that conversation when we were talking about before. I'm gonna give everybody a heads up. I am gonna probably do a comic book hangout. I don't know
Cool.
when, but I think the topic is gonna be, do us as fans, are we owed a ending from a comic series? And I'm going to preface it really quickly. And I don't mean the degree of if a creator dies or a creator gets sick and should they
Right.
end it, are we owed it in that realm? I mean, and it's a tricky issue because you're not owed anything in life, but also if you've been backing a book and you have, as fans collectively, been spending like $400,000, that's really the question is rooted in. But I'm going to further define that question because I think it's a very interesting question. But
Yeah.
and I'm going to bring on people who are fans and
Cool.
comic people because I think that it'll be a very interesting discussion. And I think it'll probably be heated. In a lot
I
of ways.
think so. I think that's a touchy subject, you know what I mean? But I wanna be a part of it, even just to be a fly on the wall. I'll give my opinion, obviously, but I'm interested to hear what other people have to say about it.
I don't think I think it's not controversial to the degree that people think it is, but I think it
No,
is going to
but
get heated. I don't think there's going to be hatred
oh
directly
dear
towards
God, there
anybody.
better not be.
I
It's a
think
hypothetical situation, people.
no. Sometimes there is on these issues, unfortunately in comics, but I don't think that there'll be hatred. I think there'll be disagreement. I think it'll be a very interesting conversation, and I'm thinking about who should be in on that conversation because I'm definitely I need to find a super fan is who I need to. I actually have an idea. Somebody who
Mm,
is probably a super fan actually in mind that should be in on that conversation.
cool.
But I digress.
Well,
But
if
enough
I'm
about
not
that.
invited, I will definitely be watching because I'm interested. So
I'm sure you'll be in, and I might throw it out to somebody. I have somebody who I think should actually be in that conversation if I can convince them to be there. It'll actually be really good if they're there. Um, it'll actually give me a lot of credibility. Um,
cool.
but I digress right there. But anyway, I do want to give you a chance to self promote. So where can people
Yeah.
find you, check you out? I know I'm missing a bunch of stuff. Your social media, the Kickstarter. I know I put it in the description up above. I also put it in the comments as well for the Kickstarter. So obviously everybody's sort of seen it in the description. So you can actually click the description to find the link. You can also look at the comments to find the Kickstarter link, and there's some other stuff also. But where can people
Yeah.
find?
We're on Facebook. Of course, the Facebook group is kind of where everybody is. We have almost 400 people in that group. So we play games and we do riddles and I do sneak peeks and we do shenanigans in that group. That's the one that kind of gets all of the updates first. So it's just Path of the Pale Rider when you search in Facebook, and just make sure you're choosing the group. I also have a page, but I use that for advertising. So you can follow that, and I'll post stuff there periodically, but it's mostly just ads. So you won't get like the fan interaction stuff that you're looking for is all in the group. We're on Instagram. We're at path _ the _ pale. You know what I mean? It's Path of the Pale Rider with underscore between all the words. The same thing for the TikTok at Path of the Pale Rider with all the underscores. Twitter, we're at Path Pale Rider. And the website, we're www.pathofthepalerider.com. Can't be any easier than that, folks. Path of the Pale Rider. So we're just about everywhere. You can see me. I rotate between all the social medias. When it's something big that drops, I'll drop it everywhere. And I'm usually on multiple channels. So like on Facebook, I'm in a bunch of indie comic groups. I'm on the Comic Related Madness Network. I'm on there every Tuesday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time with a whole crap load of people that kind of come and go through there. It's like a peanut gallery where the Brady Bunch when we all get on there. And we just talk about everything. It's whoever has projects, but we always talk about what's new and what's relevant. And it goes off the rails a lot of times. Like we had Sam Vera on there. And the entire 2 hours we were on there, all we talked about was poop. And I was like, because when you have an alien named Duty and he comes from Uranus and he's in your toilet, your brain just goes that way. So like every topic just kind of related to poop that day. And I just went off the rails. So, I mean, that's what happens, but we're crazy. You got all sorts of creators, the comic book creators, music creators, writers, fans. We're all there. So it's a fun time. So that's me, people. I like to punch things in the face and steal kidneys for the black market and write comic books. That's what I do.
Well, I guess that's that right there, and I guess this show's now canceled. So clearly, I did
I don't
that all by
actually steal
myself.
kidneys.
I did that all by myself. I cancel myself every day. It's amazing. It's
You're
amazing.
like,
because then
damn
I
it, Laurie, I
buy.
don't have a disclaimer.
Hey, you know what it is? It's all right. Elon Musk is gonna give me a free pass on Twitter. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. There's so many jokes I got, but I'm being
It's like,
very,
come on, Andrew,
very
where are
much an
they?
adult. I am being an adult today. Oh man, I got some
It's because
serious
you've been drinking
firepower.
tea and not alcohol with me. That's why. He's still adulting and has a filter. I don't have that filter. It's gone.
I have a job that I gotta wake up early for tomorrow.
You gotta go, dude.
But anyway, as I was stating, you have to support indie. So what that means is you gotta back projects and you got to put your money where your mouth is. So if you want to see this stuff getting made, you need to back it. I don't really care what project you want to back, but if you like something, you need to back it. It is very simple. If you like anything, you need to buy it. If you like She-Hulk from Disney, you need to buy it. It is simple. If you don't buy it, it doesn't get made, and then you all get upset because it didn't get made because you didn't spend any money on it. Indie comics, indie projects are no different. So if you like Laurie's book, you should actually back the project and get the book. If you don't like her book, then you shouldn't back it, but you should back something that you like so you get that project.
How come you not like our project? We got spaghetti westerns and undead bears and conspiracy theories. We're sarcastic. We have violence, gratuitous violence. What's not to like?
No, but the point is that
I know what you're trying to say.
If you like something, you need to support it. It's not enough just to follow somebody on social media. Okay? It's important to do that too. I'm not saying don't do that, but you do need to back it. You need to put your money where your mouth is, because when you do that, things get made. And they get made at a fast rate. Even if it's already funded, if it has another 5K, that means it's going to get made more. I don't know if that sentence is probably not grammatically correct, but it doesn't matter, because it will get made more, it will get made faster, it will be improved, whatever it is. That's the point. As far as I'm concerned about me, is my comic class is coming end of October. I'm recording the third section, so we will be at 75% by the end of this weekend with my new Mac. That's the only reason why it didn't drop. Buying a new Mac, it's going to be fun. I'm legitimately going to get it around 6 o'clock tomorrow night. It's going to be great. I'm super stoked for it because it's a powerful machine. Then obviously that's going to be recorded at the end, 75%, and then I think that in a week and a half I'm going to record the final element of it. Then I got to record the intro to it and just got to upload it on Udemy. And
that's all. It's just like 12 and a half steps, people. I feel you. It's like, oh, and then I got to do this, and then I got to do that.
I'm looking forward to it.
And then I got to sound edit it, and then I got to color balance it.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. I don't even need to color balance it. It's all black.
Then there you go.
On yellow, red, blue, and orange. It's a PowerPoint. Me is not on it. I am not on it. You just hear my voice. That's it.
Cool.
It's awesome. And it's going to be a great class. It's going to be a great class. And again, I can't promise you how much money you're going to make, but I can promise you will be educated. And you know what? There's a lot of people out on the internet who tell you what to buy, how to buy it. They don't teach you. They don't teach you this stuff, and that's what I'm doing here. And again, it's going to be about $40. So it's not that expensive for 18 to 22 hours of my time. I will say this, though. If you want me to build you your business, it's $20K. It's $20K, and I can tell you that we're going to spend 6 hours for a whole year every Saturday together building your eBay business for $20K. Also, I will say this. I will waive my fee if I get an equity stake in your business.
Listen to that, people.
But we will set up a corporate bank account where I will suck the money out of your bank account every month. I will suck out 10% out of it. It will just be a franchise corporate thing. But then if you want that equity deal, I got no problem. I won't leave you, and I'm going to give you so much information that at 10% is going to feel like nothing every single month. But that's the point. But if I build your business, I'm going to introduce you to a CPA and an investment person who is going to tell you exactly what to do with your money and how to pay the least amount of taxes legally. So,
Yes,
so I'm going to make you rich if you take that position. Everybody, just saying, I'm going to make you rich because I'm doing it right now, and you're legitimately going to copy the blueprint. But anyway, that's my comic class. The comic class, you just want to learn it by yourself and you want to spend $40 on that $20K, be my guest. I got no problem selling you a $40 class, everybody. And I can tell you this, that there's going to be a bunch of discount codes all throughout my entire podcasts for pretty much ever. So you're going to not even have to pay $40 if you don't want to.
So you have to watch for the spoilers.
It might be at the beginning. It might be at the end. It might be in the middle. It might be 3 seconds in. Hell, it might be on Instagram. Hell, it might be even a riddle in your book.
I was going to say, I'm like, you're taking a page out of my book. Sneak it in Morse code. Make them work for
you. I might buy ads for discounts in people's comics. I have no problem doing that either. I'm also
I got ad spots available if you want them.
I'm also figuring out how to get a commission or a high affiliate link where I'm willing to give 25% to people who refer me clients and class sales, which I think is a really good commission.
Yeah.
As affiliate. So if seriously somebody brought me $100,000 worth of business, I'd write them a check for $25,000.
That's
no
great.
questions asked. No questions asked. If you brought me that volume, I would write you a check for $25K, no problem. I don't know how many people say that because I understand exactly what that's worth.
Yeah.
But I digress. Also, my social media is down below. In case you didn't realize, I am planning to get very, very wealthy so that I can go buy a Dodge Challenger.
No, you're going to invest in Path of the Pale Rider. That's what you're going to do.
So anyway, all my social media is down below. It's Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on YouTube. You can go hit me up. You can go bother me. You could ask to be on my show. Whether you get on my show or not, though, that's up to everybody else. And that's pretty much everything I got. So yeah, that's pretty much me. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
Good night, everybody. Support indie comics.
Well, that, everybody, is a wrap.